One every single day, the school beauty would be dragged into a dark alleyway by the local bully. He roughed her up constantly, yet she never fought back. She absolutely refused to submit. Even as he tried forcing her to be his girlfriend, she would rather die. So he made it a daily routine to hire thugs to beat her up. He wanted her to give in, but then a new soul took over. As he finished downloading the bully's memories, poor Serafina had already been taking a beating. She had been hurt for half an hour when the system chimed in with a warning. Host, if you do not save her right now, the original male lead will arrive. And then everything will be completely beyond saving. How did he get here? His previous life ended when he slipped and died from using too many tissues. A tragic death, but he miraculously transmigrated into the villainous school bully of a novel. Panic-stricken, he immediately yelled at his bunch of minions to stop. "All right, that is enough," he shouted. "Stop hitting her." She stared up at him. Her expression was incredibly gloomy, and the system helpfully chimed in again. Villain affection level 90. As it turned out, the girl in front of him was actually the ultimate big bad villain of the book, and the moment her affection towards him hit 100, his expiration date would officially arrive. He hurriedly crouched down, pulled out a tissue, and gently wiped her delicate face. He muttered in fake dissatisfaction, "I told them not to hit the face." What is going on here? But Serafina was no fool. She knew exactly that he was putting on a fake show of mercy. Then came the dreaded chime. Villain affection level 91. He was literally tap dancing on the edge of a very sharp knife. He quickly shooed all his minions away from them, telling them to leave her to him. Ding, villain affection level 92. The danger meter just kept climbing, and a wave of sheer panic washed over him. Could she already be plotting his murder right at this very moment? He squeezed the tissue in his hand, absolutely terrified to make a single sound. He watched as Serafina silently picked herself up from the ground, grabbed her kicked-away backpack, and limped painfully toward the exit. He took 2 quick steps to catch up, and Serafina immediately stopped. Her tone was dripping with absolute disgust. "What else do you want?" He tentatively tugged at the corner of her clothes, looking completely pitiful. His puppy dog expression was 100% genuine because he was terrified. He knew he was wrong. "Get lost," Serafina spat at him, continuing to walk away, but Caspian relentlessly chased right in front of her. He begged her to give him a chance to make up for his sins. Was he switching to a warm and fuzzy emotional manipulation tactic now? "Caspian, do you not find yourself utterly disgusting?" she sneered coldly. "If you truly want to make amends, disappear forever." Her eyes held deep hatred. Just as he was about to say something else, he spotted a few young guys charging toward them aggressively. One look and he knew trouble had arrived. The official male lead of the novel had finally entered the chat. The lead demanded to know why Caspian was bullying people again. Caspian snapped back. He told him to mind his own business. Ding, villain affection level 95. Caspian gritted his teeth, whipping his head around to look at the terrifying girl. Serafina stands expressionless, while Alaric turns red, choking on Caspian's aggressive retort. He is absolutely terrified that Caspian might harm Serafina. He immediately shoves himself between them, acting like a dramatic meat shield. Alaric warns that whatever happened between them, as long as he is around, Caspian cannot think about hurting her while her villain affection level rises. It hits 97, 98, 99. Caspian internally screams at the system to shut up. He is exhausted by the talkative system and the endlessly chattering Alaric. His very first S-rank mission, and he gets a wolf in sheep's clothing. That would be Serafina. Talk about terrible luck in the worst-case scenario. If the mission fails, he will simply start over from scratch. After all, it only means getting chopped into 8 pieces by Serafina in a month. Realizing this, he hardens his heart and decides to throw away all pretenses, grabbing Alaric. Caspian hoists him up by the collar, shoves him aside, and lets out a cold sneer. He asks if it is any of his business, promising to bully her however he wants. He promises to bully her for the rest of her life, mocking Alaric for not attending their school. He taunts that he beats her up at school and dares Alaric to stop him. Alaric snaps back that anyone can talk big, but from now on, while he is around, no one will touch a single hair on Serafina's head. But as those words leave his mouth, her affection level officially plummets straight into the deepest abyss. He ignores her thoughts completely, shooting a sideways glance. He grabs her arm and drags her away, but a panting Alaric blocks them again. He desperately asks what Caspian wants in exchange for letting Serafina go. Caspian would love to let her go, but the system is never going to allow it. Snarling viciously, he warns Alaric to keep dreaming as he is dragging her down with him. Caspian roughly shoves Alaric out of the way, sending him tumbling onto the street. Alaric flops dramatically onto the pavement, while Serafina suddenly pauses her steps. She tries to yank her arm away, but Caspian refuses to let go, wearing a chilling smile. He whispers menacingly, keeping a completely frozen, emotionless smile on his face. He whispers, asking if she likes Alaric, making her entire body go rigid. Caspian mentions his dad's partnership with Alaric's family, noting how tiny their company is. He boasts that his father could easily crush Alaric's family business with a single finger. If she wants him to suffer because of her, she is welcome to refuse him. In that split second, Serafina looks at him with utter hatred. Honestly, can you blame her? She looks like she wants him to combust, but he just asks if they are walking. Once they are out of sight, he immediately calls his family's private driver. Serafina stands there clutching her worn-out backpack, asking if she can finally leave. Caspian replies that since she does not know what is good for her, so she had better just be a good, obedient girl for now. Serafina asks how he can be so venomous, insisting she barely even knows Alaric. She asks who he is trying to scare, making Caspian raise an eyebrow in response. He threatens to call his dad right now. Alaric was always an eyesore anyway. Seeing him pull out his phone, a panicked Serafina grabs his dialing hand. Her entire body trembles as she desperately asks what on earth he wants. She asks what is so special about her that makes him insist on pestering her. She asks if he just likes her face, suddenly raising her hand like someone possessed. Her hands claw wildly, trying to tear at her own face. He rushes forward to block her hands. Serafina violently shoves him away. If I destroy it, you finally let me go. He frowns deeply. And what if I said I like you as a person? Are you going to commit suicide next? Serafina stares at him for a good 2 seconds before speaking. If that is what you want, he grabs her hand with an iron grip. Listen to me. If you dare to commit suicide the moment you die, I will go and torture your mother. Serafina's mother is her absolute biggest weakness. This single sentence makes her legs go so weak she almost drops to her knees right there. Please stop this madness. I am begging you. The driver pulls the car over. Caspian's stomach does somersaults of guilt, but he keeps his face as cold as a frozen block of ice, making sure no one can read his true thoughts. He shoves Serafina into the back seat and squeezes in right after her. To Jiangcheng Hospital and call my private doctor over. Serafina does not make a single sound for the entire ride. He rubs his chin, reflecting on the fact that the words he just spoke are truly the pinnacle of evil, but he has no choice. If his target character croaks, the system will categorize it as failure to protect, and his consciousness will be wiped out instantly. System, am I totally dead meat? You are dead either way. You still have 1 month left. Try to work harder. I do not want to work hard. I just want to be a salted fish chilling in the sun. Why do I have to bear the consequences of the original body's terrible life choices? He hands her over to his private doctor and sits down on a bench in the hallway, staring blankly at Serafina's backpack. Lord knows how long she has been using this bag. The bottom even has visible stitch marks from being patched up. Honestly, Serafina's life is a total tragedy. Her father abandoned his original wife for power and wealth, marrying a rich heiress. At that time, his first wife was already pregnant. Later, she struggled all by herself to raise Serafina with great difficulty. When Serafina grew up, they moved to Jiangcheng, hoping for a fresh start, only to run straight into a monster like Caspian. Moment later, Dr. Thorne, his private doctor, walks up to him. I was worried. Those guys did not know their own strength and broke something, so I just gave her a thorough physical exam. Seeing Dr. Thorne's unusually grave expression, Caspian knows things are bad. She has a ton of injuries on her body, both old and new. She even had broken ribs previously that clearly have not healed properly. Her constitution is terrible. She is incredibly weak. Whose child is this? Do they not even feed her properly? Her stomach is completely ruined. Caspian listens in utter silence, not daring to make a peep. How did she get all those injuries? Is she your classmate? Thank you, Dr. Thorne. Can I take her away now? I am hooking her up to an IV drip. The fluids should finish in about an hour. Caspian, I know your family situation has taken a heavy toll on you, but I really hope you do not keep degenerating like this. The college entrance exams are coming up soon. Keep your chin up, I know. The sky outside has already turned pitch black. When he walks into the room, carrying some white porridge bought from outside, Serafina is half sitting on the hospital bed with an IV in her arm. Her wounds were treated, and bandages were now plastered all over her forehead and eye, making her look somewhat comical in that bed. He cautiously shuffled over. Sitting down beside her, he finally spoke up. It was completely his fault, and he truly knew he was in the wrong. His original goal was just to get her to look at him a bit more. But there was no sugarcoating the disgusting things his predecessor had done. He scratched his head. Forget it, he gave up trying to explain. The doctor had warned that her stomach was in really bad shape. She needed warm porridge. Hearing this, Serafina actually let out a laugh. Was this the classic routine of slapping someone, then offering them a sweet? Did he seriously expect her to feel grateful to him for this? He told her to just consider it a sudden, miraculous discovery of his conscience. She could keep hating him, and honestly, who could blame her for that? Serafina did not show a single shred of pity just for his little speech. He promised he would never let anyone lay a hand on her ever again. Knowing she wanted him gone forever, he still tried to negotiate a deal. If she ever decided to take revenge in the future, he desperately begged her. Could she please use a gentler method? He was absolutely terrified of pain. The original novel did not describe the exact process of his gruesome execution, but the ending alone made it clear how gruesome it would be. Serafina would take sadistic pleasure in torturing him, ruining her own life. It was a ridiculous mission. In response, Serafina turned her head away. Claiming she did not understand a word, he just scratched his head in frustration. She was playing dumb, but he still had to play along anyway. Even though she was definitely faking it, he had to commit completely to the act. She touched nothing, not a single drop of that warm, fresh porridge. Once her IV was removed, she walked out with him trailing closely. As she headed toward the main road to walk home, he stopped her. He offered her a ride, but she coldly insisted on taking the bus instead. She reached into her pocket, pulling out 2 wrinkled and crumpled $1 bills. He wanted to argue, but remembered the fierce pride in her soul. He shut his mouth. Still, he stubbornly wanted to walk with her. He insisted on sticking by her. Truth be told, she once liked him. In truth, she had once harbored a tiny shred of affection for him. Remembering that fact made Serafina despise herself from the bottom of her heart. Back when she first transferred, she lacked even a proper school uniform. Her faded clothes had been washed so many times they were practically white. Practically white, radiating absolute poverty to everyone around her in that elite school. Their school was the absolute best high school in Jiangchong City. It was packed with elite kids, and she had nothing to show off. Transferring midterm meant she was dumped into the absolute worst class possible. A place that served as headquarters for useless, wealthy troublemakers. While others mocked her, he was the only one who had approached her. He had approached her with a bright smile, striking up a warm conversation. At the time, she naively believed his smile was genuine, completely unaware of his motives. It was clearly just a trap. Serafina stared at Caspian for a long time. She had a question. What would happen next if she actually became his girlfriend? What was he after? The young girl suddenly stepped much closer to him, closing the distance entirely. If she had a blade, she could slice his throat open easily. Right then and there, Caspian rubbed his nose, speaking with deep, genuine concern. He wanted nothing from her, absolutely nothing, aside from her frail body. And a face that was pretty to look at. She really had nothing. Serafina scoffed. A sarcastic chuckle escaped her. Did he just want to use her for his own sick entertainment, telling him to stop the act? Fine, she would play along. Caspian wondered if he was completely hallucinating. Just then, the public bus slowly pulled up right before them. Stopping near the curb, Serafina immediately stepped on board without waiting. Caspian hesitated for a moment, then quickly followed her up the steps. He asked her to repeat herself, completely ruining his tough bad boy persona. But he desperately needed confirmation. Serafina only smirked in response. She told him he already had her, so she would do anything. Was he satisfied now? Serafina deliberately sat in a single seat. With no empty seats left nearby, Caspian was forced to stand by her. But wait, this entire plot was going completely off the rails. Did she really have affection points? Yes, her villain level was 100. That was terrifying. Caspian frowned deeply, wondering what she planned next. Reading her thoughts required 100 points, but he was broke. Every last point was spent just to unlock this S-rank mission. He was basically a beggar. Honestly, how do you date an enemy? Caspian watched as she slowly limped toward a dilapidated apartment building. His heart sank. That single sentence from her changed everything. The original storyline was completely derailed, leaving him in a panic. Gritting his teeth, he fearlessly charged right after her anyway. He was practically a dead man already. Why even hesitate now? Why the sudden change of heart? Serafina shot him a freezing glare. She ignored his questions completely and kept walking forward without saying anything. He panicked and tried to fix things, but she suddenly turned. She shoved him hard, pinning him against a street lamp pole. She demanded to know what else he wanted, since she had agreed to date him. She was utterly sick of Caspian. Hearing this, he could only frown. His face showed genuine discomfort. Serafina had never hidden her disgust. But seeing his rare, conflicted expression caught her completely off guard. She abruptly released her tight grip, turning her head away from him. She quietly muttered that she only had one final wish left to fulfill. She promised to compensate him, then turned and walked away. She did not want her tired mother to worry anymore. But fate is rarely kind. The moment she entered her home, she saw her mother sitting under a dim light, working on a cross-stitch. Her mother looked up, asking if she got into a fight again. Serafina looked down in silence. Her mother immediately checked her injuries. Her body and her heart ached terribly, but she did not dare make any grand promises, only whispering weakly to ask what they were going to do tomorrow. Her mother would go talk to the teachers. The college entrance exams were right around the corner. She could not go on like this, insisting she could handle things herself. Her mother lowered her head, asking with great difficulty if Serafina hated her. Serafina told her she was overthinking it and went to do her practice papers. Mother Sue sighed deeply, mentioning there was food in the kitchen if she was hungry. She just had to heat it up yourself because her mother was busy. Serafina paused, but ultimately said absolutely nothing. She did not immediately take out any schoolwork. Instead, she opened her desk drawer and pulled out a sharp dagger. This weapon was the ultimate symbol of her deepest humiliation, the force pushing her to climb higher. In her youth, her mother had been truly beautiful. Back then, all the other kids would openly envy her for having such a gorgeous mom. That year, she had just started elementary school when she walked home to witness a local thug forcing himself on her mother. She screamed, cried, and fought back desperately, ultimately dropping to her knees to beg for mercy. The arrogant, heartless thug tossed this exact knife right at her feet before shutting the door. He sneered she was not ready, challenging her to use it if she ever wanted him dead. Serafina lowered her dark eyes, staring blankly at the cold metal. She slipped it quietly inside her backpack. She had endured enough of this miserable life. Meanwhile, our protagonist was comfortably lying on his massive, luxurious bed, transmigrating as the heir of an ultra-rich family. Definitely had major perks, even though his dad did not care about him and his mother was out of the picture. He had completely unlimited funds, just as he was floating on cloud nine. A blaring warning alarm made him snap upright in an instant. The system revealed the target's affection level had completely broken through the absolute lowest limit. A critical plot item was now online. The original storyline was starting to deviate. The host had to be careful. He actually knew quite a bit about this world's main plotline. As long as things deviated from the original setup, the entire story would spin away from the system's script. In short, wild, unscripted events were about to happen. Massive changes that would drastically change the target's entire life path. Just a brief moment ago, he was still thinking there was no way out, and now his target was already stirring up serious trouble. The system immediately flashed a new holographic display. It showed a single crucial item, a gleaming, unsheathed dagger. Floating right above it was a helpful little label, marking it as the primary tool used to murder him. Talk about a brutal reality check. It seemed his expiration date was being pushed up. He pulled at his hair in absolute frustration, realizing it was incredibly weird when Serafina suddenly agreed to be his girlfriend. Turns out she had simply reached her limit and wanted to lower his guard so she could deliver a fatal one-hit kill. He spent the entire night agonizing in misery, desperately trying to figure out how to please the girl and survive just a little bit longer. Driven by a sheer, desperate will to live, he purposely bought a large breakfast meant for 2 people. Senior year of high school was incredibly brutal, with morning self-study starting at 6:30 a.m. Serafina was always a top student, but because she felt terribly guilty about her mother and lacked. To save money, she had not eaten breakfast once in 3 years of high school. He was banking entirely on a warmth and care strategy, a desperate Hail Mary. As a certified terrible student, he had never once attended a morning study session. So the moment he swaggered through the door, his classmates stared in shock. They stared like he was an alien. Serafina did not even look up. She remained slouched in the back row, furiously filling out practice exams. Walking past her, he pulled out the warm breakfast he brought. He stuffed it straight into her desk drawer, then sat 3 rows away. Serafina frowned, looking down at the steaming cup of sweet soy milk. She peeled off a sticky note attached to the plastic bag. Scrawled on it in terrible, messy handwriting was a message. It told his girlfriend she needed to eat breakfast properly. Face blank, Serafina tossed the note straight into the trash. She was not hungry at first, but that glorious aroma caught her attention. Suddenly her stomach started growling. Starving herself had really taken a toll. Skipping meals for years often left her stomach cramping with painful spasms. She looked up to see him laughing loudly with his delinquent friends. Giving in to hunger, she ducked her head, trying not to be seen. She took a small sip of the sweet soy milk through the straw. The sweet peanut mix was delicious. He asked his system if she ate it. The system confirmed she did. He eagerly checked her current affection level. Her affection level was -100. Even after eating, she remained ruthless. He decided to completely ignore it and muted the annoying notification function. No more tracking affection. It was time to leave things to fate. Controlling herself, Serafina only ate 1 bun, saving the rest for later. She hid the other 2 away, planning to share them with her mother. Just then he grabbed his backpack and walked straight over to her desk. Serafina tensed up as he pulled out the chair next to hers. He sat down and smoothed out a completely blank exam paper. His eyes sparkled with hope as he looked at her. He asked if he could copy her homework, but she scoffed. With a charming smile, he teased that she was paying attention to him. Serafina mocked him, asking who in the school did not know his reputation. He never submitted homework, and his academic grades were basically non-existent. Without his rich father, he would have been expelled a long time ago. His face twitched in annoyance. Fine, if she would not let him copy. He decided he would just write it himself, staring intently at the blank paper. He looked dead serious, as if he genuinely intended to solve the problems. Serafina was actually surprised by this sudden change in his behavior. In the past, he would have reacted with sheer arrogance and anger. He would have grabbed her hair, bragging about his incredibly wealthy dad instead. He used to call her a penniless beggar who only survived by studying. Now he just stared at the math paper, guessing multiple choice answers. He picked whatever options looked right and scribbled down random numbers. He was just guessing his way through the entire exam. While others took a whole hour, Caspian finished his masterpiece in exactly 5 minutes. Serafina frowns deeply because not a single answer on his paper is actually correct. Noticing her sneaking peeks at his work, Caspian raises an eyebrow with a proud look. He brags about his incredible speed, asking her if she is impressed. After all, he really does not think schoolwork is hard at all. Once the morning study session ends, he pulls out a matching breakfast set. He spreads it across his desk, and Serafina struggles to look away. Suddenly, he shoves a warm steamed bun right in front of her face. He tells her he cannot finish it, so she has to help him eat. Before she can even utter a single word, he stuffs it directly into her mouth. Resting his chin on his hands, Caspian watches her chew with a blank expression. If she was not a total psycho killer, she would be fun to tease. She eats quite elegantly, making him wonder if she is actually a good person. Just then a girl approaches and asks Caspian why he is there so early. Wearing her uniform loosely, Beatrix casually strolls up to his desk. She glares at Serafina, who keeps her head lowered in obvious displeasure. She asks why he is sitting there, calling the spot dirty. Caspian's heart instantly drops. This is going to end badly if he does not act. He nervously peeks at Serafina and quickly fires back that it is not dirty. He promises to wipe it down, prompting Beatrix to let out a scoffing laugh. She tells him to return to their group once he is bored of his toy. Pushing a cup of milk tea toward him, she says she added pudding. Out of pure reflex, Caspian mutters a quick thanks, surprising her. She asks if something is wrong with his brain or if he is stupid. Caspian retorts that she is the one cursing at people for no reason. Ignoring his attitude, Beatrix invites him out to test drive her new motorcycle. He aggressively shakes his head and pushes the milk tea back to her. Lying through his teeth, he claims he is going to study with his girlfriend. Beatrix asks if he took the wrong medication today, her patience snapping. She tells him to stop messing around before the teacher gets there. Caspian insists he is not messing around and is turning over a new leaf. Since his girlfriend is smart, he plans to get into her college. Beatrix scoffs and tells him to stop joking about having a girlfriend. She says the girl is just a plaything and completely unworthy of him. She reminds him that he was sending bullies after her just yesterday. As Beatrix keeps running her mouth like a broken record, he gets annoyed. His left eyelid twitches furiously, while a sinister smile creeps onto Serafina's face. Caspian feels like his head is about to explode right then and there. He firmly states that she is not a plaything and is his actual girlfriend. He is dead serious and announces he is done hanging out with them. He admits yesterday was his fault, but promises he has changed now. He warns that no one is allowed to cause trouble for her anymore. Hearing his absolute seriousness, Beatrix's eyes darken with intense anger. She sneers that she knows exactly what kind of trash he really is. She turns her icy glare towards Serafina and slowly reaches out to pat her. Beatrix looms over the desk, demanding to know what she said to him. Serafina coldly fires back, asking if she is actually obligated to answer. Losing her temper, Beatrix violently asks if she has a death wish. She grabs Serafina by the collar as the surrounding students freeze. Terrified, they hold their breath, making absolutely no sound. Meanwhile, the classroom troublemakers are already moving desks out of the way. They want front row seats for the drama. Suddenly, he slams his hand down. He grips Beatrix's arm hard, telling her to let Serafina go right now. She has never seen him this furious, realizing he is genuinely angry. Beatrix demands to know why he is turning, since he bragged about tricking Serafina. He wanted her as an obedient lapdog, yet now he protects her. He pulls Serafina behind his back, shielding her from the hostility. He claims he did all of this voluntarily, with zero regrets. Beatrix's expression darkens as she viciously kicks a nearby desk. The desk slams directly into his waist, forcing a sharp gasp of pain. Instead of leaving, a brooding Beatrix sits down just a few rows away. His regular lackeys approach him, muttering that their boss is acting super weird. They follow him like puppies. He only hisses back in agony. His waist feels like it is being sawed in half, through gritted teeth. He tells them to get lost. Once they back off, he sits down. Clutching his waist, he carefully lifts his shirt to inspect the damage. The skin is already blooming with an angry, deep red bruise. Talk about hitting way too hard. Watching closely, Serafina catches sight of the injury. Her entire body instantly tenses up as he gently rubs the sore spot. Serafina's expression shifts before she quietly mutters that he completely deserved it. He feels his temper flare, almost wanting to start a fight right here. But instead, he asks her why she even cares about this stuff. Serafina stares back with wide eyes, reminding him that Beatrix was about to strike. She adds quietly that it would not be the first time she got hit. She keeps her eyes fixed on him, making him flush with intense guilt. He stubbornly retorts that he told her yesterday, only he can bully her. Anyone else trying to hurt her is absolutely not acceptable. She asks why he fell out with his friends. He simply bites his lip. He hated their words, but she points out he used to say them too. Every single sentence out of Serafina's mouth hits him like a truck. The worst part is he cannot find a single word to argue back. He mumbles under his breath that he is turning over a new leaf. Serafina scoffs, saying Beatrix was right and he needs a brain check. He acts offended, complaining that she gets cocky the very moment he is nice. Serafina simply turns her head to gaze quietly out the window. She mutters that this attitude is much more normal, calling him the sick one. He curses under his breath, overwhelmed by a wave of frustration. Aside from this dramatic clash, the actual classes are incredibly mundane. The teachers do not care where he sits or what he does. He has no intention of learning, as long as he stays quiet. The teachers barely paid any attention to Serafina sitting next to him. Bored out of his mind, he sprawled across the desk, drifting off until a sudden commotion rippled through the classroom. He lifted his heavy eyelids, rubbing his eyes. The school was conducting random backpack searches for this specific class. Things were incredibly strict. Any contraband, weapons, or phones Found would mean their parents got called in immediately. Back then, he could not have cared less, even if he handed his phone to the teacher. They would never dare confiscate it. As for other contraband, he had none. When the inspection team arrived for the surprise check, he automatically stood up, waiting obediently to be searched, turning his head. He realized Serafina had not moved an inch. He patted her shoulder, but she still did not budge. Confused, he looked closer and saw her face was completely pale. By then, the teacher had already reached the back rows. He handed his bag over. The teacher rummaged through it, then reached to grab Serafina's bag from her chair. Before the teacher could even fully grasp it, a sharp question rang out. "What is this?" Serafina remained utterly expressionless. When the homeroom teacher heard the commotion and came over, she was about to explain, but seeing the object, she was too stunned to speak. Why did she bring this? What was her name? Under the teacher's rapid-fire questioning, it suddenly clicked for him. This was the plot deviation point. Honestly, if it were one of those rich, useless kids, it would be swept under the rug, but the person caught was Serafina. This was a straight-up expulsion offense. She refused to utter a single word about why she brought it. The teacher grew furious, seeing Serafina only give her name then clam up. He slammed his hands on the desk, stood up abruptly, and yelled at the inspection teacher, asking if there was a problem. Yes, there was. He took one look at Serafina, who seemed completely terrified or defeated, and took a deep breath. She did not know about it, he lied. The knife in her bag was placed there by him. Her head snapped up, staring at him with an incredibly complex and shocked expression. He had no other choice. If she got expelled from school right now, the challenges of his mission would become a complete unknown. Both of them were ordered to the office, walking side by side. Lowering his voice, he whispered rapidly, telling her to play along. She must insist she knew nothing, and that he put it in there. But Serafina replied firmly that she did it herself, frustrating him to no end. He told her to stop talking nonsense, otherwise she would get expelled. But she stubbornly refused to change her story. Grabbing her uniform, he tried to plead, but the teacher noticed and exploded in anger, demanding the truth. Terrified that Serafina would confess, he scrambled to speak first, repeating the exact same lie he told in the classroom. He claimed he put it in there, but the teacher demanded a motive. He said he wanted to threaten her. The teacher frowned, knowing his notorious reputation across the school, but she still had her doubts. Serafina was a student with a strong sense of justice, calling Caspian out. He had some serious nerve threatening a classmate, but what was his goal? Caspian was temporarily speechless. Feeling some forced embarrassment, the boy started to mumble. He muttered that he threatened her to be his girlfriend, shocking the teacher. She did not even bother checking with Serafina, knowing the girl was innocent. Believing her completely, the teacher sent Serafina back to class. Then she proceeded to scream at Caspian in the office, thoroughly chewing him out. She called him the scum of society, a degenerate who was utterly shameless. His father was immediately summoned to the school, slapping Caspian hard without a word. The blow left his face swollen instantly, getting scolded for bullying and pulling weapons. Today he has to bail Caspian out of school, but tomorrow will it be jail? His father screamed that he spoiled him too much, letting him become completely lawless. Caspian spat out a mouthful of blood, shouting back that he was never spoiled. His father never cared about him, so what kind of nonsense was that? His dad was furious beyond words, but Caspian kept his neck stiff and yelled. He asked if he was wrong, since his dad only cared about that home wrecker. The woman who forced Caspian's mom to her death, while Ara cared for her son. A cheap son who might not even be his, so when would he spoil Caspian? Caspian demanded to know how many times they even met in the last 2 years. Did his dad even know his classroom? He raised his hand to strike again. Caspian dared him to beat him to death and send him to the underworld. Though his mom could see, seeing things escalate, the teacher quickly stepped in. Playing peacemaker, she quickly shoved Caspian out the office door. He hung his head, hot tears falling steadily onto the ground. It was not because of sadness, but because his face hurt like crazy. Suddenly, a dark shadow fell over him, making Caspian look up. He realized Serafina had never left, so he quickly wiped his tears. Why had she stayed, and why did she tell the teacher that story? Despite the brutal blow from his dad, Caspian refused to lose his leverage. Did she think confessing would get her expelled so she could escape? He would never let that happen, warning her to stay by his side. A A faint, almost imperceptible smile bloomed on Serafina's exquisite face. Caspian stared at her, completely spacing out for a brief second. Her tone was incredibly soft as she slowly reached out her hand. She gently told him he looked really ugly when crying, a strange twist. Right after that, during class, Caspian discovered a massive personal crisis. His bank cards were frozen, completely broke. He laid his head down. His lips trembled uncontrollably, as if he suffered the world's greatest injustice. Serafina looked confused, starting to suspect she was the main culprit for making him look so miserable, while Caspian listed his villa online. He listed his luxury home on a real estate website to survive. At noon, the entire student body headed over to the cafeteria for lunch. Caspian had pissed off Beatrix, and his online wallet was nearly empty. He could only survive a few days and hated eating all by himself. So he trailed behind Serafina like a pathetic lost puppy. Fed up with his stalking, Serafina snaps and asks why he is following her. Caspian just wants to eat lunch with his girlfriend, asking if that is a crime. Serafina ignores him. She heads straight to the school convenience store. She plans to buy a simple $2 bun, despite her mother giving her $10 daily. She wants to save every penny, leaving Caspian standing there completely stunned. Seeing her prepare to eat that dry lump of bread, he swiftly reaches out. He grabs her wrist. Serafina looks visibly irritated by him. She asks what he is doing, and Caspian simply tells her they are going to eat. He drags her to a spicy hot pot joint, never expecting to run into Alaric there. Alaric acts surprised, asking Serafina if she also came to this restaurant to eat. He frowns at the bandages on her face, muttering that Caspian is truly awful. He asks if she is all right, or if Caspian made things difficult last night. He hears everything. Being blatantly trash-talked like this is unacceptable. He whips his head around in irritation and glides over like a vengeful ghost. Caspian demands to know what Alaric is whispering to his girlfriend behind his back. Caught red-handed, Alaric looks terrible as Caspian questions why he uses her first name. He asks if they are even close before angrily slamming down a bowl of seaweed. He grabs Serafina with one hand, pays the bill, and turns to leave. Refusing to be ignored, Alaric chases right after them. He confronts Caspian, demanding to know why he keeps making Serafina so miserable. Alaric begs him to let her go since she is already so pitiful. Caspian raises an eyebrow, knowing Serafina absolutely hates being called pitiful. Talk about an easy win for him. He feels the thrill of victory. Caspian scoffs, saying he has never once thought of Serafina as pitiful. He tells Alaric he is overthinking things and claims they are legitimately dating. He slides his hand down her slender arm to interlock their fingers. With a cold snort, he drags her away to find a good table. While waiting for their food, he demands that she split her bun with him. Serafina frowns in confusion, asking why she should share her plain bread. Caspian argues that since he is treating her, she should offer something back. He teases her for being stingy over a simple bite of bread. Serafina used to think Caspian was a massive idiot, but today is different. She claims she never asked for his food, but Caspian just mocks her. He accuses her of being too cheap to share, completely breaking her defenses. Defeated by his shamelessness, she throws the bun at him. He splits it down the middle, giving half back as their order is called. Caspian checks the ticket and eagerly jogs over to pick up the tray. Serafina watches him closely, feeling a strange and rather bitter sensation inside. He used to be a domineering thug who cared about nobody. But the boy standing before her now seems to have completely changed. He almost seems to radiate a strange, warm light as he walks back. He carefully balances a massive, overflowing bowl of spicy hot pot. Instead of rushing to eat, he grabs a ladle and scoops some soup. He tells her to dip the vegetables in the soup so they cool down. The rich, savory aroma of sesame paste wafts up from the warm bowl. Hot soup, seeing that Serafina still hadn't picked up her chopsticks, Caspian took action. He started fishing out meatballs, dropping them directly into her bowl. Then he forcefully shoved a pair of chopsticks into her hand, telling her to eat. It is called basic courtesy. He ate her bread, so she had to eat his food. Hurry up and feed yourself. They had afternoon classes after this, and Serafina's hand trembled slightly as she held the chopsticks, telling him he did not have to be so nice. She insisted that no matter what he did, she would never like him. She fully expected him to fly into a rage after hearing that. Instead, Caspian just paused for Second before flashing a brilliant smile. It is fine, he said, he would just work harder. After all, she previously refused to be his girlfriend, yet here they were. Over $30 for a massive bowl of food. Serafina ate until she was absolutely stuffed. After finishing, Caspian wiped his mouth, noting they still had 30 minutes left before school. Serafina gave a heavy nod as they walked past the table of Eric. The guy suddenly reached out and grabbed Serafina's arm. Before Caspian's inner beast could even growl, Eric let go, but Caspian still could not tolerate even a tiny bit of this disrespect. Flirting with his girlfriend right in front of his face was completely unacceptable. From an outsider's point of view, Eric might seem like the ultimate beacon of justice, but to Caspian, he was just a complete idiot. He was never going to end up with Serafina anyway, so why was he hitting on her? Caspian's harsh words made Eric's face flush rapidly from red to white as Eric demanded to know the meaning. Caspian laughed in pure anger, grabbing his girlfriend's hand right in front of the guy, asking if he thought he was in the right. Eric snapped that everyone knew Caspian forced her, truly baffling him. Why did Eric keep digging up ancient history? It only made Caspian look like some kind of villain when Serafina herself said she wanted to be his partner. Furious, Caspian grabbed a nearby chair and roared, "Are you tired of living, punk?" Seeing his violent stance, the surreal feeling Serafina was feeling began to fade, quickly replaced by harsh reality. Seeing the restaurant owner panic while the other students stared at them, Serafina grabbed Caspian's arm, her voice carrying a soft, pleading tone. She begged him not to make a scene. Hearing this, Caspian froze, immediately setting the chair back down. He nodded eagerly, agreeing to leave without trouble. The moment they stepped outside, she let go, walking right behind her. Caspian's heart pounded like a drum. Honestly, who could resist this? Before, Serafina always spoke to him in sarcastic, passive-aggressive tones, but now her normal voice was incredibly effective. Meanwhile, Serafina walked down the street with a complicated look when Eric grabbed her arm. He had secretly slipped a note into her hand. Fortunately, Caspian completely missed it. Otherwise, that diner would have been reduced to rubble. Sitting behind Serafina, Caspian's quiet snores echoing in the classroom reminded her of a stray cat she raised as a kid. She felt like she was losing her mind. Right around dismissal time, Caspian groggily woke up from his nap, stretching lazily before getting caught by the physics teacher. Caspian stand up and explain this problem. Caspian stumbled to his feet, stuttering as he stared at a textbook, literally soaked in his own drool. The physics teacher gave him an "I told you so" look. If he could not explain it, he should just keep standing. He scratched his head, slumping his shoulders in defeat. Beatrix was an absolute expert at kicking him while he was down. She turned around and let out a mocking laugh. Originally, he had shared a desk with her. He only moved over there to get close to Serafina, but now their relationship was shattered, leaving him completely isolated here. To make matters worse, Serafina was giving him the cold shoulder. He stared blankly out the window. Serafina looked at him, let out a soft sigh, lowering her eyes, asking what they were eating for dinner, though she added she did not want to eat. He knew she would say that, so he insisted she had to accompany him. After all, she was his girlfriend. Meanwhile, his bank cards were frozen and his private driver was reassigned. He was reduced to taking the public bus all by himself. He was also getting ready to sell his house. After the real estate agent took a look, they connected him with several potential buyers if the paperwork went through quickly. Today would be his last day of joyful life in the grand villa. He was definitely reluctant to let it go, but he absolutely refused to bow his head to his old man. The villa sold for $3 million. The buyer happened to be the Shire family's arch enemy. Without hesitation, he signed the contract. He knew his dad would buy it back. No way he could stand the rumors gossiping that his son was so broke he had to sell his house. With the cash in hand, he rented an apartment right near Serafina. Talk about dedication, it was the exact same building, but he did not dare tell her, terrified that a single wrong move would cause his mission to fail. Every day, he stealthily brought Serafina breakfast and dragged her out for 3 meals a day, never missing a single one. Serafina submitted meekly, never uttering a word of complaint, though her attitude towards him did soften quite a bit. While they were eating at a small diner, he casually tested the waters, asking which university she was planning to apply to. Serafina was set on Zhongchang University because she did not want To be too far from her mother. Sure enough, she honestly replied that it was Jiang Yu. Asked about her major, she said computer science. He froze, dead silent. That absolutely could not happen. The male lead was also studying computer science. They would end up as classmates, and the male lead's god tier. Grades would crush Serafina in seconds, triggering her descent into a villainess. To prevent this, he casually suggested she consider studying medicine. Serafina frowned, hating to have her choices questioned, but he pretended not to notice. Medicine is great with a high employment rate, high salary, and is a strong technical skill in high demand. Most importantly, saving lives and helping the injured is a truly noble cause. Maybe it could help her shed her villain title and become a good person. No interest, she was full. Turns out she had seen right through him. He kept dragging her out to eat out of pity. Serafina was grateful, but she knew perfectly well that all of this would eventually turn into a cruel joke. Serafina had already made up her mind. The moment he tore off his mask, she would murder him without a shred of hesitation. Since she was a child, she had felt destined to become a butcher, saving lives, yeah, right, instead of worrying. Worry about your own grades instead, she said, thanking him for the meal. Hearing Serafina's words, a light bulb went off in Caspian's head. He suddenly had a brilliant idea. You're right, my grades are terrible. How about this? From now on, I pay for your meals and you tutor me. Serafina gave him a long, serious look. There was less than half a month left until the college entrance exams. It is useless, she said. How do you know if we don't try? I'm actually really smart. Smart, she scoffed. You scored dead last every single time. Caspian frowned, refusing to speak. Surprisingly, Serafina actually hesitated because of his expression, because of his relentless feeding schedule over the past while. Her life had indeed become much more comfortable. Her mother had heard she made a friend at school and was incredibly happy about it. After 2 hours of bargaining during the evening study session, she finally relented. The moment she gave in, a massive grin spread across Caspian's face. She promised not to back out. Very strange, inexplicable feeling bloomed in Serafina's chest. She stared directly into his eyes, as if trying to peer straight through into his soul. You are completely different from before. Caspian's scalp instantly went numb with panic. But recovering a second later, he lifted his chin arrogantly. Of course he was. Who knows, maybe after graduation we'll never see each other again. I'm just using this short time to make up for things, hoping to make your conscience feel better. Caspian did not know how to keep acting. He hung his head, looking utterly wronged. If that's what you want to think, he said, I can't stop you. I'm leaving. Feeling slightly panicked, Caspian haphazardly shoved a few bites of food into his mouth and sprinted out of the diner. During this entire period, he had not reconciled with his old group of delinquent friends. Beatrix finally lost her patience, seeing Caspian sticking to Serafina with tender affection once again. She snapped as she walked past him. To her utter shock, she saw him actually studying. Is this really necessary, Caspian? You're literally just picking up a girl. Do you seriously think you're a good student? Now Caspian lifted his head, expressionless. None of your business. Beatrix let out harsh laugh. I heard your dad kicked you out of the house, right? Why did you sell your house? Is it none of my business with the way you throw money around? Is the cash from one house going to last you? Want to come beg me for a favor? I can put in a good word with your dad. It's infinitely better than hanging around with this poverty-stricken ghost. Caspian slammed his hand on the desk and stood up. Are you done yet? This annoying character barely had any screen time in the original novel. Why on earth was she causing so much drama for him? Couldn't she see Serafina's face darkening like a storm cloud ready to erupt? I have things to do, she said. I'm leaving. Serafina had absolutely zero interest in getting dragged into the drama between Beatrix and him. Beatrix laughed maliciously. Oh, our great scholar is busy rushing off to wash dishes or serve plates. Beatrix, do you have something to say to me? Let's take this outside. Beatrix was incredibly annoyed by his anxious, protective behavior. Whatever magic was at play, they had not walked far when, shockingly, Serafina actually followed them outside. Under the street lights, Caspian's face was flushed red with anger. Are you sick in the head, Beatrix? What does my studying with? What does Serafina have to do with you? Beatrix demands, her voice rising. She complains about letting him play around, but now he is going too far. He is practically living at Serafina's house, making Beatrix ask if he forgot her. Did he forget their arranged family marriage alliance? Caspian instantly freezes up. Paralyzed, his brain scrambles into a mess. Frantically querying his system yields absolutely zero helpful results. Beatrix asks if he knows how pathetic he looks, like an S-tier stalker. Serafina does not even know he rented the apartment directly below hers. Beatrix watches him sneak around behind her like a thief every day. Honestly, her words deeply infuriate him, but before he can even speak, blood completely drains from his face as he looks just a bit ahead. Serafina is standing there staring at him like a ghost with a mixed expression. She quietly tells Caspian he is an absolute piece of work, then leaves. He spends the entire night agonizing over what went wrong, tossing in bed. Sighing heavily, he suddenly jumps up like he is electrocuted at a sound outside. Sitting up straight, he peeks through the peephole, and his heart instantly sinks. In the dead of night, Serafina has actually shown up right at his door. Anxiously, he scans the room, grabs a mop handle, and slowly opens up. The very first thing he sees is Serafina's breathtakingly beautiful face. He spaces out before she asks with heavy sarcasm if he really moved in. Caspian weakly explains that he ran out of money and this place is cheap. Squeezing her way inside for a tutoring session, she notices how shabby it is. He hears her muttering about missing their full 2 hours of tutoring earlier today. Since he wants to work hard, she tells him to finish his homework first. Caspian hesitates, wondering if she is really just there to tutor him. Suddenly, Serafina realizes that a late-night visit to a boy is highly inappropriate. She awkwardly backtracks, saying she will just tutor him tomorrow morning instead. Caspian raises an eyebrow, knowing the tutoring session is just an excuse. She only came to verify if what Beatrix told her was actually true. He offers to explain today's events, but she coldly snaps there is no need. He frantically protests that he is not stalking her and just rented downstairs. But the more he explains, the worse it sounds, so he embraces the chaos. He boldly confesses that he only wanted to be closer to her. Serafina's voice turns freezing cold as she suddenly steps forward. She violently shoves him down onto the sofa, looking at him with mocking eyes. She sneers, calling him a two-timer and saying he makes her absolutely sick. She coldly dismisses his past kindness, stating it is completely unnecessary from now on. He begs her, swearing he had absolutely no idea about the arranged marriage. Caspian confesses his feelings, but she demands a real reason for liking her. She asks if it is because he thinks she has no money or power. Or does he think she is easy to play with while Beatrix covers him? He swallows hard, utterly speechless, as she coldly warns him about his schemes. She warns him to behave himself here and stay far away from her mother. Leaving that dangerous threat hanging in the air, Serafina turns to leave. Now that the final veil is torn away, a strange resolve grows inside him. Grayson was getting much bolder. Early the next morning, he waited downstairs holding breakfast. In hand, as soon as Serafina walked out, she saw him standing there and asked what he was doing. He was waiting for her, joking about walking to class together from now on. Serafina went downstairs and pulled out her broken down bicycle. With practiced ease, he hopped right onto the back rack of the bike. He urged her to go, but she asked if he lost his shame. He did nothing wrong, reminding her she promised to tutor him during morning study and telling her to hurry. If she was late again, everyone would see her bringing him to school. The moment Serafina straddled the bike, Grayson wrapped his arms tightly around her waist. He could feel the slender curve of the girl's body, the sudden warmth around her waist made Serafina's face burn, though she didn't quite understand why. She was reacting this way when they arrived at school in a corner where no one could see. She kicked him off, telling him to wait in class while she parked. He curled his lip, completely unable to understand why she had to be so secretive about it. After all, who in school did not already know about them? He told her to eat her breakfast before leaving. At his words, Serafina swayed, slightly pursing her lips and giving a stiff nod. Grayson sighed deeply as the deadline was getting closer and closer. He still could not tell if she actually cared. He asked the system to check Serafina's affection level. The system showed her affection level at 70. He paused, caught between shock and misery. Although her affection was increasing, it was moving at a glacial pace. He ordered the function to stay on, then stopped at the school gate. A moment later, he saw Serafina walking over after parking her bike. The moment her eyes landed on him, they lit up. Her affection level rose to 71. Grayson's smile instantly morphed into a grimace of pain. What kind of sensitive psycho was she? She asked why his face looked so terrible. He replied that he just wished they could spend more time together lately. He did not want to be apart. Immediately, the system showed her affection. 72, he told her never mind, but as he turned, her cold voice rang out, telling him that if he wanted to stay, they should walk together. Grayson regretted turning the system sounds back on. Talk about an emotional roller coaster. He had absolutely no idea what was going on inside her head. It was the very first time the class saw them walk in together. The room erupted in gasps, wondering if their legendary school beauty had finally given in. Grayson was terrified those rumors would tank her affection level. But to his surprise, her affection remained steady and the system stayed quiet. Testing the waters and playing his loud, arrogant character, Grayson boldly announced that she was not just a school beauty, but the boss's lady. The entire classroom burst into laughter at his joke, but then, a sudden ding rang out. Her affection level dropped to 68. He stared in absolute shock. Serafina pulled out an exam paper, asking if he completed his homework. He was about to speak when she frowned, accusing him of never studying. He swore he actually did it this time, quickly pulling out his paper. This was the true masterpiece he had painstakingly cobbled together last night. Serafina stared in pure disbelief, asking if he had actually completed it. He was genuinely surprised. Despite his messy, chicken-scratch handwriting, the accuracy of his paper was surprisingly high. He told her he wasn't stupid. She pulled out a slightly worn notebook, sharing the key study points she had organized, telling him to ask if he didn't understand. He solemnly opened the notebook, praising her beautiful handwriting, while she scoffed that his was just too ugly. His mouth twitched in disbelief. She was really getting bolder, wasn't she? If not for that 68 affection level hanging over his head, to any outsider they looked exactly like an intimately close, bickering couple. He asked if he should buy a practice book to improve. You definitely should, she replied, warning that messy papers cost points. She paused. Never mind, she added, since his wealthy family would just buy his way into a good university anyway. He quickly shot that down, saying she didn't know the whole story. Taking a deep breath, he reluctantly decided to play the pity card to bridge the massive class gap. His father had cheated on his mother long time ago, leaving him with a half-brother just 3 months younger than him. They had abandoned him long ago. He lowered his eyes, masking them in manufactured gloom. Barely a few months after his mother died, his father moved his mistress and that illegitimate brother into the house. The three of them became a happy little family, leaving no place for him. She admitted she hated rich people too. Hearing the affection points chiming their way up, he kept talking. He claimed he only acted out before to get his father's attention, but it never worked. He was only hated more and more. Now he had no desire to suck up to him anymore, especially since his father was the reason he had no mother. He forcefully willed his eyes to redden, letting a single tear hang precariously on his eyelashes. Serafina's heart trembled violently. Her villain affection level hit 61. Every word he spoke struck a chord deep within her, yet she still coldly spat out 2 sharp words: "You deserved it." She was truly a master of the sharp tongue. Classic mixed signals. She felt bad for him, yet still felt the need to insult him, just as he thought this heartless girl was going to keep up her icy facade. She spoke again, telling him it didn't matter. People should live for themselves, without chasing after the favor of others. His father simply didn't deserve it. At that, joy blossomed in his heart. Turning back to her notebook, Serafina returned to her studies, but after a while she noticed she hadn't heard the sound of him turning a page. Turning her head, she found him sleeping soundly with his eyes closed. She felt a pang of regret. She could feel her resentment toward him slowly fading away. She tried to remind herself of all the terrible things he had done, but it was utterly useless. She felt that he was just like her. Because they both lacked love, they acted in ways others found impossible to understand. She woke him, saying he was supposed to study, not sleep. He mumbled a quick defense. He wasn't sleeping. His head drooped right back down as he propped up his forehead, sighing miserably. Meanwhile, in a quiet moment no one else noticed, the corners of Serafina's mouth curled up slightly. Woken up repeatedly until the long break finally arrived, he just collapsed on the desk and slept like the dead. During this time, he was completely unaware that Beatrix had called Serafina out of. He waited. When the next bell rang, he finally realized she was gone. Beatrix walked back in, wearing a triumphant, arrogant smirk, shooting Caspian a highly provocative glare. She was not coming back. Soon 10 minutes passed. He checked his watch anxiously, still nothing. Had not returned. From a distance, he caught snippets of gossip. Giggling girls whispered Serafina's name, mentioning the rooftop and calling her. Stupid, suddenly something snapped in his brain. Fury surged through his veins. This was his carefully guarded villain. How dare they mess with her today? He swallowed hard, stood up, and asked to use the restroom. The literature teacher had given up on him ages ago and simply nodded. The moment he stepped out the classroom, he sprinted frantically toward the rooftop. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the door open with trembling hands. The first thing he saw was Serafina covered in dust and dirt. Her school uniform was torn, with raw scrape marks lining her face. Hearing the door open, she turned, looking confused, her hands pulled at her ruined uniform, revealing terrifying whip marks that ran all across her back. "Who told you?" Serafina asked hoarsely. He admitted he overheard it. "Caspian, you really are a walking disaster," she muttered. Then the system chimed. Villain affection level hit -100. It felt like everything was for nothing. He felt wronged. He apologized sincerely as Serafina slowly walked up to him, saying, "If you really like me, just stay away. Can you just let me have some peace?" Realizing they both had their guards up, he returned to the classroom, but Serafina was not there. Beatrix smirked at him, but oh boy, she had no idea what was coming. Caspian could no longer suppress his rage. He charged forward right in front of the class and delivered a spectacular, highly majestic slap right across Beatrix's face. She clearly did not expect him to actually hit her. The literature teacher was shocked, asking what he was doing. Caspian told Beatrix she really opened eyes today. He challenged her to come at him instead of targeting Serafina. Seeing him grab Beatrix by the collar, the literature teacher screamed, furiously yelling that if he did not want to attend class, he should leave. And causing scenes, Caspian did not care anymore, simply agreeing to leave. The damage was already done, and he had no desire to salvage anything. Besides, knowing Serafina's personality, she likely hated his guts to the core. Right now, as he walked back home, a deep heartbreak suddenly hit him. He had almost forgotten why he was executing this critical mission. The system strictly forbids players from bringing their real-world emotions into this game. The moment he transmigrated, all his memories of reality completely vanished. Now, reaching the lobby of his apartment building, he spotted Serafina. Their eyes met, and she coldly turned her head away. Caspian stood entirely rooted to the spot. Brushing past her, he quietly urged her to return, saying he guaranteed they would never bully her again, apologizing for all his past troublemaking. He knew saying sorry was useless, but he still felt compelled to say it. He swallowed hard, turned around, and offered a sad smile. "Actually, never mind," he muttered, cutting himself off before walking away with heavy strides. Looking upstairs, Serafina seemed a bit lost. It was school hours, so why was he out here? But the moment that question popped into her head, she already knew the answer. The guy skipped class every single day before, so what was actually new here? Serafina let out a cold scoff. Meanwhile, Caspian slept the day away in his apartment. Then someone pounded on his door, so loud it sounded like rolling thunder. Caspian hesitated for a second before opening the door to his father and mistress. His face went cold. His dad hissed that he had serious nerve. Laura stood nearby, playing her fake sweet act, calling him just a child. She begged him not to argue with a kid. His dad glared, his eyes ready to bore holes. He hissed that this child sold the villa his mother left him. Skipping school was one thing, but fighting and causing trouble was quite another. Now he had run off with some wild woman to live in a literal dump like this. His dad barked that since Caspian was dropping out, then fine, so be it. He was not cut out for school anyway, but that decent girl from the Liu family, Beatrix. Caspian was ordered to pack up and marry into her family as a live-in son-in-law. Standing there completely stunned, he asked what the hell his father was talking about. His dad scoffed that this was the only real use the boy had left. Beatrix had told him everything, yet she was still willing to overlook his terrible behavior. After the exams, he was sending them both to study in America. Caspian clenched his fists and stayed silent, knowing any argument here was entirely pointless. Besides, he knew he would not even survive past those college entrance exams anyway. Talk about rubbing salt in an open wound. His dad chose the worst line possible. He told Caspian that if he had half his mother's virtues, this disappointment would not exist. Caspian shot a lethal glare at Lara, snarling how they dared mention his mother. Every single piece of anger and grief he he had swallowed down suddenly exploded. His entire body trembled as he pointed a shaking finger at the woman standing there. Caspian's mother was amazing, yet she still lost to these two cheating, adulterous scumbags. A loud slap echoed as his dad struck Caspian viciously across the face. He warned Caspian that his mother died of an illness, telling him to stop this nonsense. Speak like that again, and his father would show him absolutely no mercy. Caspian wondered if this man had repeated the lie, so often he actually believed it. This ruthless man had driven her to death, coveting her money and playing with her feelings. He kept a mistress behind her back, using his mother's money to raise that bastard. She did not die of any illness, she was forced to jump off a building. His dad growled, asking Caspian if he had some kind of intense death wish. The older man's jaw clenched so hard his teeth rattled before he grabbed him violently. He snatched Caspian by the collar, but right then, Serafina's cold voice rang out. She stood at the doorway, her sharp eyes completely devoid of any warmth. Pointing out that many elderly neighbors were trying to nap right now, she frowned. Caspian was a minor protected by law, so they had to keep hands off. If they had something to say, they should speak properly or face the police. Beside the angry father, Lara quickly started up her fake peacemaking routine again. She urged him to forget it, arguing that Caspian was still just a child. His dad grunted that he did not care what Caspian was thinking anymore. If he still wanted a father, Caspian had better start behaving himself right now. With that final threat, they finally leave. He takes a deep breath, offering a helpless, bitter smile. If he did not have to follow the original plot to avoid unpredictable deviations, he would not have entertained those two lunatics for even a second. He touches his cheek, which genuinely hurts like hell, smiling bitterly as he goes to close the door, but then he notices Serafina is still standing. They are asking if she is going back to school. Serafina stands just 3 steps away. Her dark eyes seemingly analyzing his thoughts. He nods, telling her she can go to school with peace of mind, since not seeing him there should make her pretty happy. He adds that because of this, he does not want to see Beatrix either. If there is nothing else, he is going to rest, moving to close the door. She furrows her brows deeply, looking as if she wants to say something. After a long pause, her voice softens. She asks if his dad always pressures him like this, and if it hurts. He touches his face, shaking his head. It is nothing he cannot handle, though her words genuinely shock him. She explains that since it is the revision period now, the teachers have taught everything already, so staying home to review is fine. Serafina purses her lips, looking at him. With his current terrible grades, college is practically impossible. She tells him not to overthink it. She can see he genuinely wants a new start. If she ignores him now, who knows how low he might sink. This sudden development completely blows his mind. Is she serious? Suddenly, a flash of inspiration strikes him. The system has not announced an affection boost yet, but Serafina's attitude is clearly softening, but his eager question makes her expression instantly turn freezing cold again. She tells him to forget, she said anything, but he cannot let her leave, grabbing her arm tightly. Tutoring is perfect. He begs her to start right now while he runs for his textbooks. He questions the system about how it measures her affection. Is this the villain's internal disgust meter? She definitely does not look disgusted by him right now. The system reminds him that in the original novel, she also treated the original host nicely for a while. Hearing this, sheer terror grips him. Serafina has already come back downstairs, looking quite surprised to see him. She asks why he is still standing there waiting. Honestly, there are plenty of moments where he completely forgets he is destined to be murdered by her. Right now, with her sitting beside him and giving guidance, it really feels like she is sincerely planning his future. She even admits he is pretty smart. He never said he was stupid. She mentions her job, telling him to read. On his own, he decides not to pester her. Once she leaves, he tosses his pen down, rests his chin, and asks the system. He genuinely feels like she has absolutely no intention of killing him. Is there another plot? Will there be any major twists during this time in the original story? According to the book, the original host's younger brother will seek out Serafina. Also, she will cross paths with the male lead 3 more times, boosting her feelings for him. But when exactly does this happen? It should be within the next few days. He suddenly shot up from his chair. There was barely any time left on this 2-week deadline. Even if he couldn't completely max out her affection score, he had to try. Caspian absolutely could not let Serafina slide further down her dark path by Falling for the male lead, a villain loving the hero never ends well. He never expected that Beatrix calling him a stalker would actually turn him into a literal one. Serafina worked at a coffee shop, and he was not stupid enough to sit right inside, so he intentionally camped out at the milk tea shop directly across the street. Buying a cup of tea every day, he waited until Serafina got off work, secretly trailing her all the way back home. After a few days, he became quite chummy with the staff at the tea shop. Some even teased him, saying if he liked the girl, he should just go for her. She would definitely fall for him. Once Serafina's shift ended, he quickly fell into step, maintaining a strict 10-pace distance behind her. He had it all planned out. If he got caught, he would just claim he was grabbing milk tea. It had nothing to do with her. Serafina walked casually, a faint smile on her lips. Approaching an alley, she slipped inside when no one was looking. Caspian had his head down for a second, and when he looked up, she was gone. Panicking, he sprinted forward, looking around wildly. Where did she go? Suddenly, she asked if he finished the practice papers she gave him. Caspian whipped around to find Serafina leaning casually against the alley wall, asking why he was stalking her every day. That one sentence shattered all his defenses. The lies he had prepared died in his throat. Accepting his fate, he asked how she found out. She countered, asking who stalks someone by gluing themselves 10 paces behind, head down, not even trying to hide. Did he think she was blind or stupid? He was not. He was just worried. Worried about what? She was too pretty, and he feared another guy would target her. She took 2 steps towards him, suddenly shoving him against the wall. He caught a whiff of a faint, fresh fragrance. Looking down, he met her watery, intense eyes. Did he like her that much, sticking to her like glue? She had a better idea to make sure he never left her. Did he want to try? He hesitated for a split second, then smiled and agreed. Serafina's hatred for him seemed to be subconsciously shifting. She slowly leaned in, pressing her lips lightly against the corner of his mouth. Her voice was inexplicably gentle, whispering not to move. His heart was practically vibrating out of his chest, because in that exact moment, he heard the affection level wildly pinging. Affection level 5099. She told him to go home and study. Serafina honestly did not understand what came over her. She had wanted to kiss him. It was just a spur-of-the-moment impulse, but in that fleeting moment, she felt an unprecedented wave of panic. No one had ever managed to shake her mental state like this, and it had only been half a month. While Alaric was out buying school supplies, he spotted Serafina walking alone, her face slightly flushed. She truly was breathtaking. Serafina stopped and turned to face Alaric, who looked completely overjoyed. He always radiated confidence, something Serafina secretly envied. He asked if she just finished work, noting that college entrance exams were right around the corner. Was she exhausted, and how things had been? He asked if Caspian was bothering her again. Could he help? He had given her his contact info, but she never added him. Serafina frowned. Even though the truth was embarrassing, she stated it plainly. She did not have a phone, so she did not use those apps. Alaric's face froze. Oh, I'm so sorry, Alaric said. I didn't realize. Have you decided which university you're applying to? Jiangyu. Really? I'm applying to Jiangyu too, for computer science. Serafina looked up, genuinely surprised by the coincidence, but before she could respond, she spotted Caspian standing right behind Alaric. For a split second, Serafina actually felt a twinge of guilt. If we both go to Jiangyu, we could be great friends. I feel like we really click, Alaric continued. Obliviously, click. Caspian's voice sounded like it was squeezed through gritted teeth. Well, aren't you just a universal puzzle piece? You click with everybody. I told you last time to stay away from my girlfriend. Are you deaf? Alaric looked deeply embarrassed. What does this have to do with you? Have some shame. Serafina is only your girlfriend in your own delusions. Caspian's blood boiled. He was just about to lunge forward and teach this guy a lesson when a cold voice cut through the air. It is not a delusion. I am his girlfriend. Let's go. We're going home. Serafina waved him over and walked away without a second glance, leaving Alaric standing there, his face an absolute picture of frustration and disbelief. I'm coming, I'm coming. Caspian happily trotted up to her side, offering his half-finished milk tea. Want a sip? It's super sweet. Serafina's eyes widened slightly, staring fixedly at the chewed-up straw. I'm not drinking that. Fine, I'll drink it. He didn't feel awkward in the slightest, happily humming a little tune. Sometimes Serafina truly wondered if she was just overthinking things. Caspian seemed so simple-minded and so incredibly easy to satisfy. just a tiny gesture of goodwill from her and his eyes would fill with crushed stars shining brightly as he looked at her. It was strangely endearing. On the way back, he babbled about everything under the sun, about the naughty kids he saw at the milk tea shop, the couples showing off their affection. If you put even half this energy into your studies, you'd definitely do well. Caspian gasped in shock, making Serafina look confused. What's wrong? It means my life might be really short. Haven't you heard the saying? Good people die young, but menaces live for 1,000 years. You're an absolute menace. There is no way you are dying young. His heart skipped a beat, joy flooding his face. She didn't look like she had any intention of killing him at all, which made him incredibly happy. Then you have to live a long, long life too. How boring. Just as he was discussing the profound continuation of life with Serafina, they unexpectedly bumped into Mother Sue heading out for groceries. Serafina panicked for a second, then silently turned her head away. She irritably pulled her hand out of his grasp. What's wrong? I'm serious. I'm going to study hard and get into Jiang Yu with you. We can study medicine together. How about that? Why are you so obsessed with me studying medicine? She asked, genuinely bewildered. Caspian stumbled over his words. I just think medicine. That white coat suits her perfectly. She would look incredibly attractive, he says. Desperate to prove his point, he adds that he means it, calling her superficial and leaving. Serafina pretends they are just casual acquaintances, exchanging a few brief words before smoothly heading over to help her mother carrying the groceries. Her mother asks if she got off early, questioning who that boy is. Is he a classmate? She has never heard of him before. Mother Sue watched the handsome boy closely, noting he looked completely out of place here. This rundown neighborhood did not suit him. Mother Sue curiously asked her daughter if she liked him, but they were just classmates. She never expected to run into him again so soon, right there the next day. He looked pretty anxious. Why are you not in school? Caspian said he made a mistake, asking if Serafina was home. She was indeed home. Mother Sue immediately figured this handsome boy liked her daughter. He politely asked to get some tutoring, promising he would pay her for the help. His grades were pretty terrible, but Serafina was an absolute genius. Mother Sue insisted classmates do not pay each other. She was just happy for company. She paused, adding that her daughter was actually a very good girl. Caspian agreed, saying he knew she was not just good, but completely outstanding. He thanked the mother and went inside. Hearing the bell, Serafina headed over. She thought her mother forgot something. She opened the door. Seeing Caspian standing right there, she froze in pure shock, asking why he came. He smiled and offered her breakfast. She frowned but still reached out to take it. Truth is, she had already eaten, with dirty dishes still sitting on the table. She quickly blocked his view as he tried to peek past her with a goofy grin. Seeing his silly face made her chest tighten. Then he mentioned seeing her mother. Her eyes darkened instantly. She demanded to know if he said anything. He shook his head, playing dumb. He still remembered threatening to hurt her mother. He told her he only asked for tutoring, pretending everything was totally fine. He added that her mother was happy and told him to visit often. She asked if there was anything else, but he insisted he needed help. He had so many questions, but she said she would check them later. It was not convenient for him to enter, so she stared at the food. Talk about dedication. She later found out the shop was clear across the city. Even her own mother had never gone so far out of her way for her. After she finished grading his practice paper, he leaned in with anticipation. Seeing the page covered in red check marks, he gave a massive grin. He asked about his progress. She warned him to focus on her notes. She admitted he was smart, but he had simply missed too much material. He asked if he could get into Jiang Yu with her. He did not really care. If his system wanted him to complete the mission, it would give him answers. On her end, she felt like fate was playing a pretty cruel joke. A lazy slacker like Caspian actually had insane intelligence. He could easily rival people who had studied painfully hard for years. Handsome, rich, and gifted, a guy like him would never lack admirers anywhere. So why on earth was he clinging to her? She had nothing but her looks. He always claimed he liked her face, but plenty of rich girls were far prettier. They were more refined and dressed better. Serafina absolutely hated this feeling. She hated not being able to read him, yet desperately wanting to do so. Caspian propped his chin on his hands, beaming that he was staying with her. He promised to be there for the rest of his life. Hearing those words, her heart shook. She gloomily lowered her head, feeling completely lost. She did not throw out a sarcastic insult. Instead, she muttered softly for him to stop. She tells him she is dead serious and asks if he likes her too. Zhang Chong felt like he was dancing on the edge of danger, but he did not panic. Serafina was starved for affection, a common trait among many typical villains. That is, except for the pure psychopaths. She brings up how he claimed her. He called her his girlfriend in front of all Alaric, demanding to know if she was right. She complains about never knowing what goes on in his head, asserting her boundaries. She claims she is only repaying a debt because he treats her so well. She reasons that if she treats him well, he must return the favor even more. Zhang Chong's lips curl into a smirk, amused by her strange logic of gratitude. She quickly announces she is leaving for her part-time job. Her departure is hasty and panicked. She even leaves her exercise books behind and flees. Zhang Chong clutches his stomach, laughing on the sofa until tears stream down his face. During this exchange, he heard her affection level absolutely skyrocketing. It paused around 30 to 50 and then suddenly jumped straight to 99. He was getting used to the system glitching during S-rank missions. After all, the system assistant once admitted no one had ever cleared an S-rank before. Meanwhile, Serafina spent her entire shift feeling completely unfocused and distracted. Her coffee shop boss even asked if she had fought with her boyfriend. Serafina froze, the tips of her ears turning completely red in embarrassment. She wondered what boyfriend, but her boss meant the guy camping across the street. The boss mentioned seeing them walk off together yesterday, assuming they were dating. Serafina glances out the window toward the milk tea shop across the street. Through the glass, the boy's familiar silhouette is nowhere to be seen. A sudden emptiness hollows out her chest, as if she lost something truly important. This sensation is terrifyingly intense. She quickly mutters a denial. Serafina desperately tries to shake the swirling thoughts straight out of her head. But the universe does not cooperate. Her first customer that morning is trouble. He is draped head to toe in designer brands, radiating pure arrogance. She knows he wants trouble. Greeting him professionally, she asks how she can help. The man sneers, his eyes dripping with absolute disdain at their first meeting. He introduces himself as Caspian's younger brother, Darius, stating his purpose is simple. He pulls out a bank card, ordering her to leave his brother, Zhang Chong. Serafina feels an intense wave of déjà vu, and honestly, who wouldn't? It mimics a cheesy 8 p.m. soap opera, complete with money thrown in her face. She always assumed these dramatic tropes only existed on television, never in reality. Yet here she is, she mockingly calls him the son of a home wrecker. Darius's face immediately contorts into a dark scowl at her sharp insult. Angered, he asks if she understands the consequences of speaking like that. Serafina calmly replies that she does not know and has not thought about it. She tells him to either place an order or leave without disturbing others. Darius turns smoothly, staring down at her with pure, unadulterated contempt. He demands a hand-drip iced coffee with no milk and no sugar added. Tossing a $100 bill, he is told the coffee costs more. It is $150. Annoyed, he throws another bill. Keep the change and consider it your tip. At the register, Serafina swapped a $50 bill and quietly slipped the money into her pocket, watching her do this. Darius sneers. Look at this pathetic beggar, a measly $50 tip makes her act like a total lapdog. He wondered how brainless Caspian was to fall for this. When Serafina walks over with the hot coffee, Darius stealthily trips her. She never expected him to be this incredibly petty. She loses her balance and the cup of coffee goes flying, splashing violently right all over Darius's expensive clothes. What is the meaning of this? Using your job for personal revenge. The store owner rushes out with no idea what just happened. Seeing the ruined suit, he immediately pulls Serafina over to apologize. He says he is incredibly sorry. Their employee hasn't been feeling well lately, so she's just clumsy. Darius snaps at him to save his breath. He never wears clothes that have been washed. This suit is imported from Italy, so he demands a 20% discount. Pay $8,000. Is this extortion? The owner knew it was a high-end brand but never expected it to be that expensive. Serafina looks up, totally baffled by this absurdity. His childish way of picking a fight was painfully childish. Just as Serafina goes to speak, Caspian violently shoves Eric out of the doorway. He practically tumbles into the shop, rushing straight to her side. He demands to know what was said, shielding Serafina completely behind him. Darius, who gave you permission to come here? Darius's arrogant, difficult demeanor vanishes without a trace, instantly replaced by the act of a perfect, loving brother whining that Caspian hasn't been home, and their parents asked him to come find him. Caspian refuses to discuss it, demanding to know what he said to her. Darius snaps it is none of his business, but Serafina softly interjects. She says the clothes just need washing, making her pay $8,000. Isn't that just bullying? The owner, who genuinely liked Serafina because she worked hard, speaks up to defend her. $8,000. Caspian immediately blows his top. Why not just go rob a bank? Talk about shameless. This snake is definitely trying to earn brownie points with their dad by intentionally causing trouble for Caspian, who had seen Serafina through far too many humiliating moments. She always felt that if her life were just slightly better, things would be fine. Caspian firmly grabs her sleeve, commanding her to come with him. On his way out, he brutally shoulder-checks Darius, sneering a fake sorry. He claims he didn't see him, but he did, if the system hadn't suddenly warned him that a critical plot event was triggering. Who knows what would have happened next? Eric didn't have much money, but he had saved up plenty of red envelope cash. In the original story, he steps in to pay off this exact debt. To play the hero, because Serafina was so starved for affection, she would remember that tiny act of kindness forever, and her affection for Eric would skyrocket. Caspian absolutely refused to let that happen. Why is he here? She asks. To Serafina, Caspian's sudden appearance seemed far too coincidental. She is highly suspicious by nature, while she wouldn't necessarily accuse him of orchestrating this hero saving the beauty scenario. Caspian claims he was anxious and just wanted to see her. He reached the door, saw the chaos, and rushed in. What could he possibly do to him? Serafina realized that in his eyes she was just a fragile, delicate flower, unable to withstand the slightest breeze. He is not a good person, he said, his excuse sounding incredibly flimsy. Serafina let out a short laugh. Right, he is not a good person, and neither was Caspian. I do not want to work anymore. Buy me a meal, since he came here to cause trouble specifically because of you. You should take responsibility. Her sudden request left him both shocked and ecstatic, even though it did not sound like something she would normally say. He felt like he had taken a massive step closer to her. Affection level 99. He naively convinced himself the system was just broken. Sure, what do you want to eat? Rumors somehow painted him as someone with a chaotic, messy private life. At first, Serafina thought he was just casually toying with her, but seeing how easily he focused all his attention on her, deliberately trying to flirt, she could not help but feel a twinge of resentment. If her background and status were better, he would just be someone she could easily manipulate, but she was not. He claimed he only liked her face. That caused her endless panic and countless sleepless nights. If he met someone prettier in the future, would he not just mercilessly toss her aside? After all, he was shallow. She just wanted him to end this game quickly so she would not feel so restless. He babbled on and on, deciding what to eat. No raw food for her, so Japanese was out. Her stomach was bad, so nothing spicy. After agonizing over the choices, he asked, how about we buy some groceries and I cook for you at home? Actually, I know how to cook a few simple dishes. Suddenly, I really want to cook for you. Okay, when 2 small side dishes and a bowl of egg drop soup were placed on the table, Serafina stared at the surprisingly appetizing spread. I did not expect you to actually know how to cook, she noted. Of course I do. As Serafina picked up the bowl of soup, a fleeting sense of profound familiarity flashed through her mind, but it vanished as quickly as it came. The next time I get cornered and bullied, will you show up? Then too, Serafina suddenly dropped this question, looking up at him with dark and readable eyes. He realized a massive problem the moment she spoke. His hands started trembling with nerves. He stuttered, What problem? Do you hate Arik? She had not noticed it before, but seeing Arik and him appear at the exact same time today made her finally pay attention. Whenever Arik showed up, he always coincidentally managed to be there. His eyes darted round shiftily. He did not tell the truth. Serafina's tone dropped 2 degrees. So it is true, you hate him. I just do not want you interacting with him, not even a little bit. Why? You and him will not have a good ending. His voice was filled with unwavering certainty. Serafina raised an eyebrow and shot back. And what about you and me then? Will you and I have a good ending? He froze, suddenly too terrified to speak. First of all, Serafina was destined to kill him, even though the chances seemed low right now. If the mission succeeded and he guided her onto the right path, he would completely Vanish from this world, a mocking smile spilled from Serafina's lips. She prepared to resume eating. After a long silence, a voice finally broke the tension. We will, he said. I will make sure you have the absolute best ending. It won't be a total tragedy. He forced a strained, bitter smile. The college exams were looming closer. Serafina actually visited the school to deliver the exam details to him. She even dragged him out along with her just to buy stationery. She asked why he was spacing out as she finished. Paying, turning to look at him, still rooted to the spot, asking if they forgot to buy something. He just stared past her, glaring at Alaric's completely darkened face. Sighing, they walked out. Serafina spotted a tea shop across the street. Do you want one? Knowing his love for milk tea, she asked. He pointed at Alaric standing by the curb, completely stunned. Serafina's face remained blank. She calmly stated she wanted one, then walked to get them. His soul slowly returned to his body. Just moments earlier, Alaric had intercepted Serafina again, flashing his signature sweet smile and saying, "Hello." What a coincidence, running into her before he could even march over. He heard Serafina respond with absolute ice, saying running into him was not worth being happy about since they were not close. Alaric was frozen, and he was completely dumbfounded too. Serafina shoved a milk tea into his hand, then turned and walked forward without looking back. He spent the entire walk chasing after her. It wasn't until he was finally walking right beside her that she slowed her pace. He chimed in, trying to make conversation, asking if their rooms were close. She noted he was on the 3rd floor and she was on the 1st. When he asked if she would wait for him after, she agreed. The night before, he paced the hallway, riddled with anxiety. Less than 24 hours until his scheduled execution. If he managed to survive, the mission would be half complete. He could completely break free from the original plot, and Serafina would welcome a brand new life. She asked why he was pacing around in the middle of the night instead of sleeping. Serafina seemed to be heading downstairs to buy something. His body stiffened. He turned and saw her long, soft hair framing her face, but those eyes were still razor-sharp, even looking slightly relaxed. She exuded an undeniable, oppressive aura. He confessed his nervousness. Serafina looked down at him for a long time, suggesting they go for a walk. He agreed, and they walked side by side. It was obvious his mind was weighed down with heavy thoughts. She was never good at comforting people. Just as she was trying to formulate a sentence, she met his eyes, saying he would eventually find some university to attend. That did not sound comforting at all, and Serafina looked frustrated with her own words. He noted he knew his grades were terrible, and she did not have to remind him. But he would do his best for Django to stay together. She said Django was not that great. She noted the university in Chang was also pretty good, and not too far from Django. He then asked what she had been trying to say. Wondering what she thought of him as a person, his voice trembled as he asked. She replied with nothing special. He almost forgot her ability to lie was unparalleled. He told her nothing special was fine, then asked about her majoring computer science. He then asked what if she met a boy who was gentler, handsomer, and better at talking than him. She replied she did not know, wanting to go back. She picked up her pace, leaving him trailing behind, wondering what she meant. Perhaps she simply had not fallen for him yet, which was perfectly normal. How could she? Could she really fall for someone over a few favors? Absolutely not. Serafina feels his lingering figure looks incredibly pathetic, walking slowly, practically begging for her to turn around and chase him, but she does not, lying to herself. Will not do any good. She is terrified that if she chases after him, she will find out it was only her own wishful thinking. Better to keep a shred of dignity. What the heck, he curses, tossing and turning in bed. If he fails, he will have to go back and do 10 lower-tier missions. He tells himself to separate reality from fiction since this is just a game. He is exhausted, no matter whose body he occupies. This is not his real home, and he does not truly belong anywhere. A deep sense of being lost washes over him. System asks if he is crying, but he fiercely wipes away his tears. Terrified he will oversleep, Serafina comes knocking on his door bright and early to make sure he is packed and ready. He looks at her in a daze, harboring a million questions but unable to bring himself to voice a single one. Serafina wishes him luck and turns to leave. Calling out her name, he practically throws himself at her, pulling her into a tight hug. The sudden embrace makes her go rigid, but he holds on tightly, holding back everything he has endured for so long. She reaches up and gently pats his head. He is trembling, but she thinks he is only nervous for the exams, telling him not to worry. If he does not know a question, skip it. And leave it for last. She warns him not to fall asleep, saying she only wants him safe and happy. As long as he is happy, she is happy. When he asks if she will remember him, Serafina only frowns in confusion. Wishing him luck, she cannot figure out the meaning behind his words, walking into the exam room where the first person she sees by the window is Alaric, the boy. Looks eager to strike up a conversation, but in a flash, the light in Serafina's eyes go cold. The exams go smoothly, but after finishing her paper, she keeps her brow furrowed, suspecting he cannot solve the difficult questions. After much deliberation, she intentionally leaves the final hardest essay question blank. As for him, things are going incredibly smoothly too. With the system's guidance, he knows the exact cutoff score for Jiang Yu this year, so he carefully calculates and leaves just the exact amount of questions blank to hit the cutoff. No more, absolutely no less. If Serafina stubbornly sticks to computer science, he is willing to sacrifice everything to stand by her side and study right in there with her. Also, being a runner, he is the first to hand in his paper, sprinting up the stairs to the third floor. Serafina is still inside the classroom, slowly packing her things. He shoots a fierce glare at Alaric on the other side of the room. Plot armor is seriously terrifying, putting them in the exact same room for the college entrance exams. Serafina looks toward the back door, and before she knows it, he threw his arms around her again, wrapped in her soft, sweet scent. It was soft, clinging. Serafina blushed, swaying under his weight. He held onto her tightly, refusing to let go, sticking like superglue. The exams had exhausted him. He needed a recharge. Serafina completely froze. Eric stared at him in shock. He shot him a provocative, victorious smirk. Eric felt like he couldn't breathe. Serafina was in that ungrateful wretch, and Caspian is complete trash. They really are a perfect match, Tarek thought, raising his chin haughtily and storming out. The classroom emptied out. Serafina felt her body growing hot. Are you done yet? At the restaurant, Caspian was chattering away nonstop about how he tackled the exam questions, his eyes sparkling brightly. Serafina picked at her rice bowl, naturally transferring the pieces of meat into his plate. He was too busy talking to notice. Serafina watched him, then obediently picked up a piece of meat and put it in her mouth. Her eyes curved into a genuine smile. He excused himself to use the restroom. Is this your wallet? Hearing a voice beside him, he snapped back to reality. Turning his head, he saw a girl with a very clean, pure face. Her aura was completely different from Serafina's. It was genuinely pure and innocent. Her features were incredibly harmonious. Thank you, you're welcome. He stared at her a little longer than necessary, because this girl was the actual female lead of the original novel. Is she pretty? Caught off guard by the sudden question from behind, he answered instinctively, yeah, pretty. He whipped his head around to find Serafina staring at him with terrifyingly dark eyes. Oh crap, did I interrupt your ogling? My apologies. Serafina turned and walked straight out. Panicking, he sprinted after her. He tried to explain, but she snapped. Serafina shoved him hard, seeing her already out the door. He fumbled in a panic to grab his wallet. When he tried to pay, the owner told him the bill was already settled. He rushed out the door like a madman. She always knew Caspian was shallow, Serafina thought viciously, kicking a pebble on the ground. Just a moment ago, she thought he had been in the restroom too long and was worried something had happened. When she went to check, she saw him staring blankly at the back of some girl. Even though she couldn't see the girl's face clearly, she assumed she must be very beautiful. He followed pitifully behind her. Neither of them said a word. Only when she reached the exam building did he finally tug on her sleeve. That person, she just looked really similar to a celebrity he knew. No need to explain, she said. She didn't care, right? Seeing her expression, he almost thought she was actually jealous. Forget it. He knew Serafina wouldn't possess such an emotion. Thinking about that 99 affection level, but honestly, he was just being delusional. Only 5 hours left until his scheduled death. He laid his head on the desk, thoroughly depressed. These 5 hours felt like an eternity. Serafina shouldn't have any reason to want to kill him anymore, right? The moment the final bell rang, he nervously waited for Serafina at the door. When Serafina emerged, she immediately noticed his foul mood. After thinking it over, she figured maybe her overly harsh attitude at lunch had scared him. She realized she had absolutely no reason to be angry. He was like a kite soaring high in the sky. She held the string, but who knew when he might snap it and fly away. She felt the Universe was incredibly unfair. She felt like a fish on a chopping block. Completely at the mercy of others, he asked to walk home with her. Let's go, Serafina. Didn't hesitate. He felt like he had a million things to say, but kept swallowing the words back down. Today, Serafina, what exactly is our relationship? She asked what he thought, but he truly didn't know. Her heart sank like. He stood there like stone. Wasn't it just a while ago that he declared himself her boyfriend? Now he had absolutely no clue what to say, utterly speechless as her intense gaze locked onto him. Seeing Caspian remain silent, Serafina endured the quiet for a long time. Before she finally snapped, asking him if he was done playing with her. She demanded to know if all his past kindness was just a setup to abandon her. He denied it, but her accusations whipped up a tornado of complex emotions. His brain scrambled, then she just walked. Her own heart clenched painfully. Meanwhile, Caspian's mind was absolutely exploding. Frantic system notifications popped up, flashing erratically. The affection levels jumped erratically, practically splitting his head wide open. He stood frozen in place, utterly paralyzed by the sheer sensory overload of the system. Serafina did not look back. She walked away, leaving him behind. He was used to watching her leave, but then the affection level took a massive dive. Talk about a sudden plot twist. The affection level abruptly hit flat zero. What on earth was his target thinking? Only Serafina held that answer. Caspian could not figure it out at all, and he definitely did not want to go home. Meanwhile, Serafina stood by her window, peering down anxiously at the street below. But she never caught sight of his figure. He must have gone back home. He probably got bored of their little game and went back where he belonged. Caspian stood exactly 10 paces away from the spot where the original host was supposed to die. Serafina was nowhere in sight, but he had actually survived. Feeling incredibly dazed, he checked the clock and saw only 30 minutes remained on it. The mission was not over. He had to stay by her side. He needed to keep Serafina from turning to the dark side, but just as he turned to leave, a sharp scream echoed from the alley, instantly triggering his protective instincts. He rushed toward the sound, only to find Eric trembling helplessly in a dark corner. The boy warned the street thugs to stay back, while Caspian scratched his head in confusion. What kind of plot was this? Seeing someone approach, Eric called his name. The thugs turned to look at Caspian, their expressions shifting into a collective look of excitement. One of them excitedly yelled out that he was Boss Caspian. Eric's face turned completely pale. Trembling, he asked if Caspian hired them. Caspian stared hard at the thug, racking his brain but finding absolutely no memory of him. He could not recall this guy at all, so he demanded to know what they were doing. The thug grinned, explaining they just wanted to invite Eric to play. But since Caspian also hated this pretty boy, they offered him first turn. He was told to teach the boy a lesson, but before he could even answer, a hand clapped onto his shoulder. That touch sent a massive jolt through him. Seeing Serafina, his brain completely froze. She actually ran in to save them. Seizing an unexpected surge of strength, Eric actually managed to break through the tough blockade. He sprinted wildly toward the pair and slammed directly into Caspian's chest with full force. Knocking Caspian off balance, Eric ran straight to Serafina's side. A thug caught Caspian, demanding to know if their boss was hurt. He screamed angrily at his crew for failing, but Caspian only felt a sudden dread. Before the thug finished, a terrifying realization suddenly dawned on Caspian. He had not ordered this. Shoving the thug away, he backed up. He desperately tried to wipe his hands clean of the situation. His heart hammered against his ribs. Serafina did not push Alaric away. Instead, she patted him gently, whispering that she would take him home. The thug intentionally tried to block Caspian's path. Caspian delivered a brutal, cracking slap across his face. Boss Caspian, the guy stammered, staring in utter disbelief. Caspian ground his teeth. Audibly, if you do not know how to speak, shut your mouth and never let him see you again. Alaric sobbed the entire way home. Serafina found his crying incredibly grating, but unbidden, the image of Caspian's eyes looking at her earlier flashed into her mind, making her heart ache. What exactly happened? Back there, Alaric muttered that they cornered him after school and dragged him into the alley. He had not provoked them at all. Was Caspian behind this? No, it was not him. Serafina's defense of Caspian was instant and absolutely firm. Did you forget all the terrible things he did to you before? Serafina instinctively refused to believe Alaric's accusations, but it was true. Caspian had done all those terrible things. Before, she told Alaric she would call a cab, needing to handle things. They Should not chase after him. Caspian had not gone far, standing quietly at the entrance of the alley. The thugs had already scattered, seeing his shadow. Serafina's eyes lit up briefly, but she quickly suppressed the emotion. She finally reached him. It was 8:25 p.m. Caspian insisted he did not do it. He stubbornly repeated the defense, knowing how hard it was to chain. Her mind, once it was set, she stayed silent, just staring at him. Intensely, he admitted he was awful before, but he was truly trying to change. As he spoke, the corners of his eyes burned with unshed tears. He had no reason to target Alaric, swearing it was true. Serafina took a slow step toward him. He immediately backed up. Was she here to get revenge? Caspian was terrified of pain, begging her to choose a less painful execution. Are you sick in the head, Caspian? Serafina let out an exasperated laugh. He looked up in confusion, tears still pooling in his eyes. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a tissue, and shoved it against his face. You look incredibly ugly, she muttered, telling him to stop crying. He was dazed. Wait. Was she not going to kill him? Did she not want him anymore? Who said that? A massive, beaming smile broke across Caspian's face. He hastily wiped his face and asked why she had abandoned him earlier, leaving him behind this afternoon. Serafina felt her heart pounding erratically, and it was entirely because of him. In a repetition of past events, trapped in this narrow alley, Serafina once again shoved him against the brick wall. They stood so incredibly close. Her breathing was uneven, her warm breath ghosting across his cold face. She reminded him that he was tired of playing. That is utter nonsense. Caspian immediately cursed. He wished with all his heart she would only like him, so she would not have the slightest interest in arguing with Alaric or competing with the female lid. She dared him to say one more swear word, gently pinching his cheek. Caspian grinned widely. He would not say it, too happy to care. Even if Serafina beat him to pulp right now, he would still be happy. Caspian, she said, I am not a toy. He had flirted, and she had taken it seriously. He insisted she was not a toy. She admitted she was paranoid, sensitive, highly suspicious, and emotionally. She admits she is unstable, a bad person. She reminds him of his lifelong promise. She took it seriously. No more messy past. They are wiping the slate clean. A total reset. If he does not care, they can just be strangers. But if he flirts again, she will fall hard. She truly likes him. Before she can even finish her sentence, Caspian cuts her off completely. His deep gaze says everything. Right now, his feelings are entirely genuine. He truly does. He speaks from the absolute bottom of his heart. She whispers that he does not seem like the old Caspian. Instantly, his heart freezes. Suddenly, she reaches out and proactively takes his hand. Shock hits him. The system alerts him that her affection is permanently locked. Locked at 100%. She has never liked anyone before this. Now she desperately wants him all to herself. No exceptions. They both get into Django University as expected. Caspian spends hours pondering what it is like to date someone like her. Her affection remains constantly at 100, occasionally spiking slightly higher. Honestly, she is the textbook definition of a perfect girlfriend. Over the summer, she works part-time jobs to save up for living expenses, but every time she comes home, she brings back treats like his favorite milk tea or chicken wings. Her mother asks if she is dating that boy downstairs on her day off. Knowing Caspian wants to go out, she had been preparing early to leave in the morning. Her mother's sudden question makes Serafina freeze. Getting caught was bound to happen eventually, though. She asks if that boy's family is extremely wealthy, urging her to go. Serafina stays silent and quietly closes the door. Caspian has been waiting downstairs for a long time, but she stays completely silent. He asks if she is unhappy or fought with her mother. She denies it with a quick glance. He can read her like a book, easily seeing through her carefully constructed disguises. She claims he is overthinking, then asks if he has contacted his family. He lies and says no. Her guilty eyes show she knows the truth. Ever since he got into Django, his father seems to have had an epiphany. He even bought back their villa and constantly pressures him to return home. Serafina's mood remains incredibly low all day. No matter how hard he tries to make her laugh, her spirits will not lift. Her affection has long since maxed out, and her villain darkness meter has dropped to zero. Every day he sees her, he feels a sudden wave of joy. They sit on a park bench, comfortably enjoying the cool evening breeze. Serafina stares at him, spacing out, admitting she is highly curious about something. She asks why he was so convinced she was going to kill him. Instantly, his Smile evaporates. He had only come up with that initial survival strategy, hoping constant reminders would make her abandon any murderous thoughts. He never expected it to come back and bite him like this. But why is she suddenly asking this now? Talk about serious tension. Could she be? Kill him again. Caspian bites the bullet and starts spouting absolute nonsense. He claims he had a nightmare where she chopped him into 8 pieces, saying that the dream felt far too real. He quickly grabs his drink to hide his panic. He waved it in front of her face, promising it was super sweet, but Serafina saw right through his mind. Under his highly expectant gaze, she took a small sip. It was incredibly sour. Is it sweet? He asked. There was absolutely zero expression on her face. His hand trembled. He took the drink back and absent-mindedly took a couple of sips himself. Oh boy, it was sour. Caspian laughed. Serafina rarely smiled. But when she did, her eyes were breathtakingly beautiful. They rippled like a pool of clear spring water. Chewing on the straw, he sneakily peeked at her, his own lips curling into a smile. Serafina felt that whenever she was with Caspian, she would always lose track of time. In the blink of an eye, the day to report to Yungu arrived. The university was quite a distance away. The fact that Caspian actually managed to get into Yungu left even his high school teachers completely dumbfounded. Copying was impossible in the college entrance exams. In the end, they could only firmly conclude his ancestors' graves must be smoking with literal magical karma. He walked all the way there with Serafina. Her beautiful silhouette was exceptionally eye-catching on campus, drawing the gazes of countless students. Because of this, the moment he stepped into his dorm room, his new roommates practically swarmed him with enthusiasm. Bro, who was that stunning girl walking with you earlier? My girlfriend, he replied. Is she going to this university too? What major? Same major as him. They are both in computer science. Nice to meet you all. He is Caspian. However, his joy did not last long. The dorm door was pushed open once again. His eyes locked with the person standing in the doorway. Alaric's sparks of pure, intense enmity immediately filled the room. Alaric's body went stiff, his jaw practically dropping to the floor. He looked like he wanted to turn and sprint for his life. Talk about bad luck. Sharing a dorm with Caspian was basically his absolute worst nightmare. Haha, you guys know each other. Talk about fate, you guys chat. Caspian said, I am going to find my girlfriend. Since it was the first day of freshman registration, many parents were around helping unpack luggage, meaning Caspian easily slipped upstairs to the girls' dorms. Just as he was about to knock, Serafina's dorm door opened. Handsome, who are you looking for? Serafina followed the voice, looking over and immediately frowning. Why are you here? Abandoning the bed she was making, Serafina walked straight over and grabbed his hand. He held up several cups of milk tea. First time meeting you all, he announced. I am Serafina's boyfriend. These are for you. Serafina reached out and tugged at the hem of his shirt. Seeing the door move, she immediately pulled him closer to her side. He stared at the girl in front of him. Alina, you guys might be early, but everyone in the dorm already knows each other. The other girls happily chimed in. Sister Ning, your little boyfriend came to deliver milk tea. Alina looked at him, a bright smile blooming on her face. It is you, do you remember me from the restaurant? You picked up my wallet, thank you so much. Caspian smiled back at her. Serafina stared at him for 2 solid seconds before finally remembering what had happened back then. Without missing a beat, she grabbed him and dragged him outside. Weren't you hungry? Let's go eat. Serafina felt incredibly stifled. That girl had money, looks, and an aura that screamed. She tracked young boys effortlessly. Serafina dragged him all. Heading downstairs, he is reluctant to leave. Is that girl pretty? No way, he says. You are much prettier, he insists. By now, he has wised up to her tests. Serafina is basically a massive jar of jealousy. She asks if he checked the class assignments. Smoothly changing the subject, she finally reminds him to check his phone. Serafina had worked part-time just to buy herself a smartphone. She is not quite used to it yet. I heard it from my roommates, she says. Do not bother looking since we are not in the same class, leaving him incredibly deflated. He worked so hard to get in, yet he still did not end up in her class. Their schedules will not even align. She mentions she is sharing a dorm with a cleric. Caspian warns that he is keeping a close eye on him. Why are you watching him? She asks. That punk is sneaky and always buzzing around her. Caspian cracks his knuckles menacingly. If he catches them interacting, that cleric is dead meat. This makes Serafina let out a soft laugh. He insists the guy is definitely trying to steal his girl. You absolutely cannot get close to that bad man, Caspian warns. Serafina secretly loves this. It makes her feel so cherished, knowing he is fiercely protective and always thinking of her. Her heart feels completely full, but let's check out the girls' dorm next. Her roommates are chattering away while unpacking, having absolutely nothing to do. Makes Serafina feel incredibly out of place. She feels she must find a part-time job to keep herself busy. The girls ask her about her boyfriend. How did they meet? High school classmates, she replies. That is so sweet, they say. Have you two done that yet? Serafina shoots them a cold, side-eye glare. Leaner chimes in, telling them to stop asking such invasive questions. Meanwhile, Caspian's own roommates are interrogating him on how he managed to woo a goddess. She loves him, so he just let her have him, he shamelessly declares. Really, what else could it be? Caspian shoots a cold glance at Alaric and asks. Back then, Alaric accused him of forcing her to be his girlfriend, but what did his girlfriend actually say? She said she was not close to him at all. She even told him to stop pestering her. Alaric snaps back, calling it absolute nonsense. Alaric warns him not to push it too far, his eyes turning red with anger. Everyone knows Caspian was the king of school bullying. Ask yourself honestly, Alaric says. How many times did you beat up Serafina? Why should I not be suspicious? Who knows if you hired those thugs after the exams using your family's money? Just causing trouble every single day. Caspian's eyes turn dead cold, so what if he hit her? Doesn't she still like him anyway? Caspian warns Alaric not to throw dirt on him. Those thugs had absolutely nothing to do with him, so Alaric should keep his stinking mouth shut. You think I won't talk? Alaric snarls, completely unfazed. Hearing this, Caspian doesn't hesitate. He instantly grabs a nearby stool, warning him to say one more word. Alaric refuses to back down, stepping forward bravely. Puffing his chest out, Alaric dares him to hit him. Caspian swallows hard. This is getting intense. This Alaric seems totally different from before. With the stool raised, Caspian preps himself to swing. Alaric does not flinch, staring right back at him. But in the next second, he slowly lowers the chair because Serafina warned him not to fight. Forget it, Caspian says, letting him off the hook as Alaric lets out a cold snort and walks away. After his clash with Alaric, his roommates clearly see the dynamic. They are oil and water. Honestly, he does not care about gossip or the rumors, only caring about what Serafina thought, but Alaric wasn't nearly as carefree. Growing up, he was always the pampered golden boy held in the palm of everyone's hands, yet he constantly hit a brick wall when trying to deal with Arlade, even when he was wrong. Alina asked Alaric why he was struggling to adjust to university life. He looked deeply preoccupied and distracted. So Alina spoke gently. He claimed he was in a bad mood, but she insisted he open up. They were childhood sweethearts. In Alina's eyes, Alaric was a kind-hearted boy from day one. If she had to pick a flaw, he was almost too kind. He asked Alina if he was really annoying. She quickly asked who said that, questioning if roommates were the problem. He admitted he hated that dorm. Alaric felt incredibly wronged, sensing the quiet distancing from the other guys. He explained he knew a guy before who insisted Alaric was trying to steal his girlfriend. Now they were assigned to the same dorm. After a fight, the entire room started ignoring him, just like that. Alina asked who it was, but Alaric refused to cause any trouble. He wanted to let it go, but Alina proudly declared she would handle it if anyone tried talking trash. Meanwhile, our lead was casually strolling around the cafeteria with Serafina, who kept a very close eye on his expressions. Finding nothing they wanted to eat, they decided to try another dining hall. He refused to settle for just anything and turned to ask Serafina about a nearby place with amazing milk pudding, but before he could even finish his thought, he spotted Alaric and Alina standing together in the distance. In the original settings, their relationship had not yet reached the romantic stage. Even though their dynamic looked a bit ambiguous, neither of them had realized their feelings yet. It was Serafina's persistent, accidental advances toward Alaric that originally triggered Alina's strong possessive streak, making her realize her love. Noticing he had stopped moving, Serafina turned to ask if they were still getting pudding. He jutted his chin toward the duo. Following his gaze, she spotted Alaric and the girl next to him. He sighed dramatically, remarking how perfect they looked together. Seeing Alina beside Alaric, Serafina instinctively grabbed his hand, questioning what was so interesting. Suddenly, Alina locked eyes with Serafina and Marched right over, Serafina remained perfectly calm, asking if there was a problem. He subtly intertwined his fingers with Serafina's, holding onto her tightly. Seeing Alaric made him cling to her, Alina asked which dorm her boyfriend was in. Expecting it to be Alaric's, but she paused, looking at Alaric beside her, immediately understanding they were together. Alina claimed they were just friends, but heard he was being bullied. She looked at our lead, knowing they shared the same dorm. He laughed out loud, asking for the details. He joked that he was an expert at seeking justice. Alina's expression faltered slightly. Serafina quietly told him to stop messing around. She reminded him that everyone knew his high school reputation for never taking things seriously, begging him not to start trouble again. He teased Alaric, calling him brother and claiming their deep friendship meant he could never allow any bullying. He raised a smiling eyebrow. He asks Alaric what exactly his roommates are saying about him behind his back. Alaric claims he has no idea, insisting their dorm vibe is actually pretty harmonious. Caspian asks if Alaric did something shady that someone dug up, prompting a sharp defense. Alaric calls it nonsense, blaming Caspian completely and telling him to stop acting fake. The cleric refuses to say more, dragging Alina away while Caspian clicks his tongue. This finally gives Caspian the perfect vibe of a truly vicious male villain. Alina steps up, coldly demanding a chat with Caspian, who easily agrees to it. Soon they are sitting in a quiet milk tea shop, with Caspian feeling completely carefree. Zero guilt, he sits there completely relaxed and carefree. They go to order and Serafina leans in close. She whispers quietly, and Caspian plays dumb with his most innocent face. Almost fooled, Serafina lightly flicks him on the forehead instead. She had a bad feeling the moment he mentioned sharing a room with Alaric. It has only been a few days, and he is already bullying him again. Alina asks with a chilling edge why Caspian keeps targeting the poor cleric. Caspian just laughs internally, knowing nobody compares to the girl sitting beside him. Caspian knows Serafina is the real ultimate boss, but he simply answers. He does it because he feels like it, making Alina's eyebrows shoot up. She cannot believe how shameless he is, letting out a heavy sigh. She reminds them they will be sharing a dorm for 3 full years. She begs them to at least stop fighting, even if they never become friends. Serafina looks at Alina, quietly letting out a small sigh of relief. Caspian then slides his unfinished milk tea over to his girlfriend instead. He claims he cannot finish it, before finally agreeing to Alina's peace offer. But he warns her not to provoke Serafina, making Alina smile in relief. Caspian mutters that he wants to head back to the dorm to rest, leaning closely in front of her. He plants a quick kiss on Serafina's cheek, and she calmly accepts it. She has an incredibly high tolerance for his antics and constant mischief. Alina defensively claims she never provoked his girlfriend in the first place. She decides it is fine as long as they all take a step back. Later back at the dorm, Alina spots Serafina and hesitates for a second. Things got pretty tense today. Did your boyfriend get angry at all? Since he is fine, Alina decides to treat everyone to drinks tonight. She wants her to bring Caspian along while she brings Alaric to celebrate. However, Serafina knows Alaric dislikes any event where Caspian is present. Intrigued, Alina admits she tried asking Alaric for the full story. But even after digging, there really is no deep-seated blood feud there. No idea, Caspian just seems to target him all the time. She asks Alina to apologize to Alaric for them, declining the drinks. Alina, being highly socially adept, tries to coax her out to have fun. She insists it is just a small dorm gathering to have some fun together. She says it would feel wrong if Serafina did not bring Caspian. Serafina realizes this is a necessary social ritual she cannot easily reject. After hearing about the plans, Caspian specifically warns her to be careful. He tells her to drink less, asking if Alaric will be attending. What grudge could he hold to talk about all day? Caspian realized he was getting too obsessed. But that guy clearly had massive protagonist plot armor. Caspian had to stay on guard. They were just friends from the dorms. She told him to buy her a bucket of popcorn on his way back. Before she walked away, he gave her a quick hug sneakily. Slipping $500 into her pocket, she protested about boys, then Serafina walked into the private room, her face instantly soured, forcing Alina to explain. Eric did not want to go back to his dorm yet. He did not have many friends here. So it was fine, right? Serafina did not say another word, but Eric was indeed extremely likable. Halfway through dinner, he was already laughing and joking with her roommates, blending in perfectly. The atmosphere was loud and lively. But Serafina sat there, looking completely detached from all the fun. Festivities, once they finished eating, the group got bored and decided to play. Truth or dare, since Serafina could not just walk out, she had to bite the bullet and play. In the very first round, Serafina was targeted. Amidst the cheering, she chose dare to call her boyfriend and break up just to see his reaction. Serafina stayed completely silent. As the mood froze, Alina quickly stepped in to save the day. Do not cause trouble for the young couple. They worked hard to get together. Instead, Serafina grabbed a bottle of white liquor from the table and poured a full glass, throwing her head back to down it in one swift gulp. In the next round, she refused to gamble despite all the leeway Caspian gave. Serafina drank far too quickly. By the end, her head was spinning. The others were completely wasted too, and curfew had already passed. So Alina booked 4 rooms. Unable to look after everyone alone, she told Eric to watch Serafina and head over to check in first. They could use Alina's name to get the rooms. Soon, Eric and Serafina sat together in the back of a cab. The heavy alcohol hit her hard. She felt awful as their arms touched, sharing a drunken warmth. With blurry eyes, her head tilted, resting right on Eric's shoulder. Eric instantly went stiff. He glanced down at her, his face darkening. Why did such an amazing girl have to fall for Caspian? Thinking this, he silently supported her head, gently leaning it against the car window instead. Then he got out to buy a hangover cure while she kept mumbling about popcorn. Suddenly, Caspian got a frantic system warning. Talk about timing. He immediately rushed to the scene, and without saying a single word, he dragged Serafina out of the car, carrying her as he got ready to leave. Suddenly, a voice called out to wait. Caspian turned to see Eric holding out a bottle, offering it for her hangover. Caspian was quite stunned, but he took it and quickly left. Since they could not get back into the dorms, he brought her to a nearby university motel. The girl beside him slept heavily, her brows tightly knit. What was she dreaming about? A soft flush stained her cheeks, and Caspian could not control himself. He reached out to gently touch her face, but before he even made contact, her eyes snapped open. Awkward tension instantly filled the room. Their eyes locked. Serafina's gaze trembled slightly before she suddenly hid away. She falls straight into his embrace. Rest now, he whispers. His face is completely red. He is snoring. She listens to it in the room, her eyes wide, tears slowly falling. She didn't dare to tell him about her dream of that dark alleyway. In it, a boy with a knife plunged into his chest was slowly dropping to his knees in front of her. He clung to her pant leg, his voice twisted in agony, begging her to save him. But the dream version of her seemed entirely unfazed by this, cold and detached. Unlike any normal human, she crouched down, using a white-gloved hand to pat his pale face, whispering that trash like him did not deserve to live in this world. If he wanted to blame someone, he should blame himself for provoking the wrong people, warning him to stay away in his next life. That exact memory shocked her awake. Terror. She always considered herself a cold and erratic person. After everything the Sioux put her through, she swore from a young age that she would get her revenge by any means necessary. If Caspian ever found out about her dark past, he would definitely despise her. Serafina propped herself up, staring at him for a long time. If there was a deity in heaven watching over her, that deity's name had to be Caspian. Once she calmed down, she couldn't fall back asleep. The reason was simple. His sleeping habits were absolutely atrocious. He rolled back and forth across the entire bed, occasionally grabbing her to nuzzle and cuddle. She didn't dare move, terrified of waking him up, so she just lay there stiff as a board, suffering through the entire night. The moment he woke up, she bolted into the bathroom. It took a long time before she finally emerged, suggesting they head back to school, and dryly asking if he knew he drooled. Originally, he was feeling a bit restless, thinking they finally had some romantic couple vibes going, but then the mood shattered. Serafina's words ruined it instantly. His face completely fell. He was miserable the whole way. She ignored it. On the way back, they bumped into Eric and Alina. Alina called for Caspian to wait. She wanted to talk to him alone, asking if he had time. He only hesitated for a moment, but agreed. Alina chose the milk tea shop on campus. He saw her face darken, wanting to call it off, but unfortunately, it was already too late. Alina explained that Alaric told her everything, suggesting there was a Misunderstanding between them, she claimed Alaric had no intention of stealing. His girlfriend, Caspian, scoffed, asking if Eric ever told her what he was like in high school. Alina fell silent, so Caspian answered his own question, admitting he was an unreasonable tyrant since childhood. He was targeting him, and what could she possibly do about it? After dropping that line, he silently gave himself a massive thumbs up in his head, proud of playing the vicious male antagonist perfectly, before declaring that his girlfriend was waiting for him. At the door, military training flew by in a flash. On the final day, all the platoons gathered for an evening gala. The boys and girls were practically breaking their backs, showing off their talents to stand out. Honestly, who wouldn't? A killer performance tonight basically secured their priority mating rights. Rights for the next 4 years. Finding a gap in the crowd, he stealthily snuck to Serafina's side, grabbed her hand and grinned at her. The surrounding boys erupted into a chorus of boos and teasing whistles. In the past, she absolutely hated the feeling of being stared at. She always felt people were looking at her with strange, judgmental eyes, but in this moment she actually enjoyed it. The boys behind them sneakily passed some things forward. Serafina hesitated for a moment when she realized it was 2 bottles of alcohol. The night breeze was gentle. He smiled and offered a toast to their hard-won, incredibly difficult love. She muttered, "What hard-won love?" He joked she wouldn't understand. He took a massive gulp, with Serafina constantly looking like a cold, emotionless killer ready to snap his neck. Honestly, who wouldn't be terrified? But somehow he had managed to grasp Serafina's weakness. People with psychological trauma are almost always suffering from a severe lack of love and care. Since Serafina didn't have her own sky, he would work hard to become her sky. The more he thought about it, the happier he got. He straight up chugged the entire bottle. Then the world spun. Everything went completely sideways for him. Brain turned to mush. Serafina also noticed something was wrong. The boy who handed them the alcohol scratched his head awkwardly. He was about to explain that this was some devil's brew he bought to let them try it. But seeing her boyfriend chug it like water, he should be fine, right? By that point, he had already gone completely quiet, staring intently. At the center stage, the music suddenly changed. Before Serafina could react, he squirmed his way out from beside her and squeezed right into the center of the crowd, crushing the empty bottle in his hand. Biting his lip, he started dancing wildly to the beat. Serafina frantically grabbed him, trying to drag him away. He asked why she was stopping him from taking his stage. She called his dancing maniacal, but he bragged about being a former top-tier idol. He gently held her face in his hands and stared at her for a long time before planting a kiss on her cheek. Thanking her, she asked why he spoke so formally for giving him the chance to complete his. Serafina clearly saw his mouth moving, but the words in the middle were like a movie scene. Suddenly muted, she asked what he said, but suddenly an agonizing pain ripped through his body. It was absolute, extreme pain. His legs suddenly gave out, and he dropped to his knees, collapsing onto the ground. Serafina watched in utter shock as he practically kowtowed right in front of her. The system's protection mechanism had just triggered. Talk about a complete mood killer. It blasted him with a high-voltage shock. His system evaporated the alcohol instantly. When he regained his senses, he was sprawled out. Serafina's expression was absolutely priceless. He joked that he was just incredibly thankful she agreed to be his girlfriend, and not knowing how to express his excitement, he kowtowed to her, asking if she liked his show of gratitude. She told him to hurry up and stand. Serafina knew he was spouting nonsense, caught between laughing and crying. She asked if his legs hurt. Honestly, he felt it was no big deal. He had suffered far worse pain resisting the system before, but no one had ever asked him if it hurt. He was so incredibly moved, he instantly threw his arms wrap around her, hands getting a bit too adventurous. What are you groping? What is wrong with touching his own girlfriend? Serafina does not respond. In that fleeting moment, he genuinely feels that spending his entire life with her would not be bad at all. One day, he actually asks the system about the hosts who entered S-rank missions but failed. What was their most common mistake? The system replied that they fell in love with their target. Later, they lean on each other heading to her dorm building. When it is time to part, they are incredibly reluctant, looking back every 3 steps. Caspian feels that living like this for too long would inevitably make him lose his grip on reality. If the system had not reminded him that a new chapter was starting, he would have gladly drowned in His daily flirtatious banter with Serafina. Late at night, his phone rings. Jarringly, he answers only to hear her hoarse voice. Caspian, she says she must go home tomorrow and does not know when she will return. Be good at school, do not cause trouble, now the day has arrived. He begs her to wait downstairs for just a little bit, saying he wants to see her right now. Serafina remains silent for a long moment before replying with a soft okay, asking him to explain. Her eyes are bloodshot with tears. Seeing him, she finally cannot hold it back. Caspian never realized that predicting the future could be such a painful curse. Honestly, this is heartbreaking. The entire world is rushing toward sorrow, leaving him powerless. Suddenly, the system warns him of her blackening level rising rapidly. Host, prepare yourself. He reassures her that her mom is good and will be fine. Heaven protects the good. Her eyes are red. He asks why she does not sleep, wrapping an arm to pull her close, desperately trying to distract her, since they are in college now. It is not puppy love anymore, right? Can he finally tell her mom that he is her boyfriend? That way, he can finally meet her family. Officially, whatever Serafina is thinking, she lies quietly. In his arms, he asks for a head pat. Are you a dog? She asks. He says it helps. Shouldn't she be patting him instead? Saying that, he places his hand on her head, asking if she feels better. He thinks back to when he advised her to study medicine, admitting he had some bias. He just wanted her life to be better. She is a genius. Maybe she can create a miracle, but death is completely ruthless. It does not spare anyone. The moment they arrive at the hospital, Seraphine rushes straight to the ward. Caspian notices a neighbor standing nearby, a friendly-looking woman in her 50s. He greets her, asking if she helped pay the medical bills up front. He wants to reimburse her $600 for Serafina. She asks if he is a relative. Caspian replies that he lives downstairs but is her boyfriend, which surely counts as a relative. Please do not tell her he paid, knowing her pride. The neighbor thinks for a moment and smiles. This boy is truly good. Serafina has had a hard life, but his presence is a blessing. Caspian goes alone to swipe his card, paying off all her mother's medical. Standing right outside the hospital ward, Caspian hesitates, reaching for the door. He pulls his hand back every single time, absolutely terrified. He dreads seeing her mother suffering and hates seeing Serafina hurting even more. Suffering in silence, by his 10th lap pacing the quiet hallway, he frowns. He pulls out his phone and dials Dr. Thorne, his family's private doctor. The man is a close friend of his birth mother with massive hospital connections. Even though Caspian knows how tragically this story is supposed to end, he still wants to fight destiny just to avoid any future regrets. He cannot even tell if he wants to earn affection points from her, or if he genuinely just wants to comfort this incredibly pitiful villain. The phone rings endlessly. Calling in the middle of the night is pretty rude. But this is a total emergency. Thankfully, Dr. Thorne does not seem angry. He just asks patiently, Caspian, what is wrong? Caspian asks if he knows any top-tier brain surgeons at Zhongchang Central Hospital. Hearing this, Dr. Thorne's sleepiness completely evaporates. He asks urgently, brain surgery, did you get into another fight? Did you damage your own brain, or did you smash someone else's skull open? He tells Caspian to wait, promising he is coming, but there was no fight. Caspian's mouth twitches. The doctor is great, but he is a chaotic whirlwind. He does not act like a meticulous, careful medical professional at all. Caspian sits back down on the bench. It is incredibly late now, and the hallway is totally deserted. The freezing air conditioning feels chillingly eerie. Suddenly, the door creaks open. Caspian turns to see Serafina's exhausted face. He asks how her mother is, but she stays silent, patting her pockets. She pulls out a few $dozen in loose change. Caspian scratches his head. He tells her he has something to say, begging her not to get angry. She slowly looks up with icy eyes, telling him whatever he decides is fine. She saw the scans and spoke to the doctor. The prognosis is grim. She tells him to just leave if he wants to. Caspian is stunned. He immediately pulls her into a tight hug, promising he is staying right there. He only wanted to tell her that he already paid the medical bills. He never planned on leaving her, and they will fight this together. Serafina finally wants to cry. Even when beaten half to death, she never wept. But now her hands tremble as she clings tightly to him. She sobbed, she is just so tired. Why is life always like this? What did she do wrong? Her voice trembles with deep, tragic sorrow. Caspian gently pats her back, softly begging her not to cry. He has no idea how to comfort people. Just then, Dr. Thorne arrives. The doctor stops and crosses his arms, watching them with a frown. He recognizes the girl. Why are they hugging? Did Caspian actually hurt her? Caspian turns around, immediately catching Dr. Thorne's highly amused and speculative gaze. His face instantly flushes deep red. Serafina looks over as well. Realizing this doctor is connected to Caspian, she quickly steps back. Caspian steps closer to her side, introducing her to Dr. Thorne. He proudly declares she is his girlfriend, making Dr. Thorne raise an eyebrow. Her brain was damaged. He asked Serafina to fetch the records. The diagnosis files and CT scans. He sat with Dr. Thorne. Her mother had a brain tumor. He needed a skilled specialist. Could Dr. Thorne help? The doctor scoffed at the request. He mockingly asked, since when did he start doing good deeds? Love had completely rewired the kid's entire personality. When Serafina brought the files, Dr. Thorne examined them closely. Silence, the heavy atmosphere grew colder and colder by the second. He swallowed hard. In the original story, her mother died. But he kept wondering if using his connections to find a doctor could change her fate, just like his own survival did. Dead, he was supposed to be dead, yet here he stood. Dr. Thorne broke the silence, saying they should talk tomorrow since it was late. He promised to contact a neurology specialist friend in the United States. No guarantees. The tumor had been in her brain for a long time. The risks were massive. Details would come later. He stayed with her, curled up on that cramped bench the entire night. The doctors took her mother away for endless tests. Hardship had already broken this once gentle woman. Later, they recommended a transfer. The surgical risks at this hospital were far too high. Their local facility simply lacked the specialized medical staff. They suggested moving her to Shanghai for the best doctors. But the craniotomy and chemotherapy would bring massive medical bills. He immediately agreed, telling them to arrange the transfer without delay. Serafina took a deep breath, keeping her head down, thinking. They had specifically fled Shanghai years ago, just to escape the Su family. Going back meant they would enter the dreaded original plotline, the one he wanted to avoid. In that story, Serafina knelt before the Su family gates, suffering brutal humiliation just to secure the surgery fee. Dead on the table, that was her mother's original fate in the novel. He called Dr. Thorne again, desperately asking if they could avoid going. The doctor answered that the surgery was possible, but Yung Chang's equipment could not support it. They had to go to Shanghai. Standing right beside him, Serafina heard everything and agreed. Dr. Thorne had everything arranged, except for one crucial final link. He needed his father's approval first, refusing to rely on him. He did not dare tell Serafina, quickly making an excuse about heading to the restroom, but Serafina was already awake, watching him leave. The mother opened her eyes, calling out softly to Serafina. She told her daughter not to worry, saying they would return soon. She admitted she heard everything, asking her to stop hiding the truth. She whispered how beautiful her daughter had grown as a tear fell. She had just dreamed of when her daughter was still little, even. Back then she was so different, never crying or throwing tantrums. Her mother said she always smiled seeing her, making this whole painful life worth it. She admitted she really liked that boy too, noting how well he treated her. She urged her daughter to treat him even better when she repaid him later. With absolutely no regrets, the mother insisted on stopping all medical treatments. Believing she had only months left, she wanted to save up some money for her daughter's future, but Serafina refused to give up, declaring she had a plan to repay Caspian. They were going to Shanghai, so her mother just needed to focus on recovering. Meanwhile, Caspian stood in the hospital stairwell, nervously picking at the peeling wall paint. When his wealthy dad finally answered the phone, he was completely caught off guard. Why would his estranged son suddenly call? Still, his voice remained ice cold. Asking if he was out of cash, the man demanded he return home immediately. Caspian calmly offered to show him something amazing in exchange for a massive favor. He asked him to save Serafina's mother. Suddenly, his system asked if he was sure. Warning him it was no joke, Caspian ignored it at precisely 12 o'clock. Right after his dad enters the restaurant, a waiter will trip and drop everything. The front desk cashier will suddenly burst out laughing while staring at her phone. At that very second, an old man wearing glasses will walk right past him. Dismissing it as absolute nonsense, his dad was nonetheless completely stunned. Every single detail Caspian described over the phone happened exactly as predicted, down to the exact second. Instantly, his father's mind raced through a million wild possibilities. His eyes darkened, accusing Caspian of using cheap, staged tricks to fool him. He claimed Caspian was just hiring actors. Caspian simply told him to look outside. Stepping outside the restaurant, the older man looked up into the sky. A completely clear, cloudless sky met him. He scoffed in pure annoyance. Rain. The city of Jiangchang had not seen rain in weeks. Did he think his dad did not check the weather reports? But right on cue, dark clouds violently rolled in. A sudden heavy downpour crashed from the sky. The phone in his father's hand began to tremble violently. The man was filled with absolute shock. His entire face completely froze. Hearing this, a smug smile formed on Caspian's lips. In the original novel, this city of Jiangchang, which had not seen rain in weeks, was about to experience 3 days of relentless, heavy downpours starting today. This massive storm marked a major turning point. For the entire story, Caspian chuckled softly, telling his dad he was a smart man. Amused, his dad asked him to prove his prophecy powers by predicting if he would actually help. A predatory smirk spread across his father's face. Before Caspian could answer, his dad firmly declared that he absolutely would. Laughing, the older man told Caspian to stay safe before hanging up. In truth, his father did not care about prophecies or massive profits. He did not even care if Caspian's claims were true or false. Saving a life took a single word. After all, Caspian was his own flesh and blood. With his father's agreement, a look of sheer excitement flashed in Caspian's eyes. He quickly dialed Dr. Thorne, telling him the transfer was fully approved. With the arrangements made, Caspian hung up the phone as his adrenaline faded. Cold sweat poured down his forehead, and his excited expression instantly stiffened. Every ounce of strength in his body was completely drained away, leaving him. With a heavy thud, Caspian collapses to the floor, his head slamming hard against the tiles. He cannot hold on any longer. Ever since he started actively twisting the story's plotline, this agonizing pain has been continuously stacking up. Meanwhile, Dr. Thorne arranges a private jet for the mother and daughter on the way to Shanghai. Serafina never sees Caspian. Texts go unanswered, and his calls will not connect. After receiving a sudden phone call, Dr. Thorne casts a heavy look at Serafina. He apologizes, explaining he cannot accompany them to Shanghai, but his assistant will arrange everything. Dr. Thorne is always a total whirlwind the moment he says he is leaving. He is gone. Serafina frowns, quietly asking where Caspian has gone. She wonders if he is not coming. Dr. Thorne's expression turns grave and chillingly calm. He simply says Caspian has something to take care of, eyes filled with complex emotions. Just moments ago, Caspian's father had frantically called the doctor back, saying something has gone terribly wrong with his son. Now Thorne is driving back like mad, worried sick the entire way. Meanwhile, back on the jet, Serafina lets out a soft sigh. Perhaps it is for the best if he does not come. If they run into her family, all her wretched humiliation will be completely exposed to Caspian. It is her pride acting up. She does not want to open her deep wounds for him to see. Quite heartbreaking, honestly. After losing consciousness, Caspian is pulled straight into the system's holding space. Like a regular, he slumps comfortably into a chair and grabs an apple. Plot deviation is at 30%. Spit it out. Which of his organs did it fry this time? The system sighs that the host is far too impatient, but Caspian regrets absolutely nothing. He does not think he did wrong. His mission time has been slashed to 6 months. How is that not wrong? If he had followed the plot step by step, he would have had 3 years in this world. That is a terrifyingly long time. Long enough that the future becomes completely unpredictable. Caspian is ready to wake up now, asking for the minimum standard to clear this S rank mission. Blackening level 0%, affection level 50%. Reaching these metrics constitutes a cumulative clear. He slowly wakes up in the real world, instantly hearing his father's roaring voice. What the hell are they talking about? How can his son suddenly have heart failure? Sheer is begged to calm down. Caspian watches this. Caspian clears his throat, calling for his dad. Instantly, Shia goes completely rigid. He never in a million years would have thought that his arrogant, domineering son is actually this fragile, so fragile that a single misstep could mean even the gods cannot save him. Shia is not used to speaking with warmth. With a cold face, he asks how Caspian is feeling. Caspian says he is okay, but asks if heart failure means he will die. Shia snaps to stop talking nonsense, telling him to focus on resting and recovering. He shouldn't worry about anything else. Subconsciously, however, Shia does not really want to talk. Caspian seems to have changed completely, yet simultaneously has not changed at all. He asks if Serafina has left yet. Shia demands to know why he is still obsessing over her. Caspian softly responds, explaining she is a very good person, just like his mother was. Shia asks, what is so great about her? Because he came here specifically for her. Caspian says silently to himself. Shia sighs that even without Beatrix, there are other girls. But none of them are Serafina. The sheer devotion makes Shia feel incredibly guilty. The father was frustrated, seeing shadows of other people in Caspian and absolutely hating it. Caspian strongly disagreed, arguing his dad knew exactly what her family background was like. He was set to marry into the Liu family, a deal with massive profits on the line. Tearing up that agreement on his own would mean devastating losses for his father. Caspian knew firsthand how tough living without money could be, having experienced it himself. He asked if that justified deceiving his mother, which left his dad absolutely furious. Choking on his rage, the father snapped that money could always be earned back. To Caspian, there was only one Serafina, and his days were already numbered anyway. It did not matter if he ended up penniless down the road. He wanted her more than any fortune, his eyes welling up with tears. He begged his father to set aside his dislike and help her instead of fighting her. The father finally agreed, coldly offering to just give some money to the poor girl. But Caspian wanted a real future with her. Then, a sudden shock hit him. A painful surge of electricity shot through him, causing excruciating head pain. Cold sweat broke out across his forehead, and he passed out right then and there. Next, Caspian's father called Serafina, asking if she had received the wired funds. Her heart skipped a beat, though she had prepared herself for any scenario. She had to choose between saving her mother or staying with Caspian. Confirming she received it left a bitter taste in her mouth, but she had no choice. When asked about her mother, she heavily replied that she was undergoing exams. To force the breakup, Caspian's father had directly wired her over $2 million. The father admitted Caspian had begged him to send that money to her. Crushing a cigarette in his office, he explained there were two reasons for the money. It would save her mother, but it came with a strict condition she must accept. Serafina kept silent, knowing the catch was finally coming, a demanded written guarantee. She had to promise never to abandon Caspian, no matter what happened. If she dared to betray him, the father threatened 10,000 ways of making her suffer. Thanking him, Caspian had naively believed he successfully altered the plotline. But unfortunately, he still could not escape the cruel jokes of fate. A sudden warning system prompt flashed up, revealing a hidden plotline. His expression stiffened as he scrambled out of bed. He dashed downstairs, while his dad warned Serafina about playing with his son. The father demanded she never bother him again, regardless of the money. He revealed that Caspian had been diagnosed with severe, life-threatening heart failure. Even if he died, she would not get a single cent of his inheritance. Hearing this, Serafina froze in absolute shock, unable to understand what happened. The boy who was laughing with her just days ago was suddenly facing death. Her chest felt incredibly tight as panic began to settle in. Gripping her shirt, her eyes burned as the father demanded she keep her promise. With that final warning, his dad abruptly hung up the phone. Her entire body went limp as she collapsed onto a hospital bench. Staring blankly outside, she signed the surgery consent forms for her mother. The procedure only had a 30% success rate, a terrifyingly small hope. She realized she never truly had choices as a child, and still has none now. Every move was a massive gamble, and now the stakes were higher than ever. They were gambling with human lives. The lead surgeon was a specialist flown in from overseas. Shanghai treated her like a true VIP, giving her the absolute best treatment wherever she went. Meanwhile, Serafina grew increasingly silent, often spacing out alone for hours, lost in her own thoughts. The person she missed most was Caspian. Back then, he was so arrogant and overbearing, he would beat up anyone who dared irritate him. She smiled weakly. Back then, he absolutely hated her, yet looking back now, he seemed like a man desperately in love. With her, Serafina asked the doctors about heart failure. From now on, she would lose the ability to run and jump. She would even lose the right to throw a tantrum, existing only as a fragile glass doll, forced to remain perfectly calm forever. She sat on a cold hallway chair, the sharp scent of Disinfectant filling the air, the IV drip counted down the time, drop by. Drop second by second. Her mother lay on the gurney, her eyes staring blankly. For the first time, she felt the hospital corridor was impossibly long. So long that you couldn't see the end, only the gray-white ceiling stretching forward indefinitely. It was suffocating, reflecting on her painful, difficult life. It felt like she had no time to accomplish anything before it was all hastily coming to an end. Honestly, things were looking bleak if she fell asleep. This time she would never wake up again. Meanwhile, Caspian was running frantically through a torrential downpour. He was so exhausted, his brain was nearly completely blank. All he could hear was the echoing sound of his own ragged breathing. Serafina needed him. On the journey to Shanghai, he didn't close his eyes for a single second. He dialed Serafina's number over and over again, but no one ever answered. At 6 a.m., when he finally arrived at the Shanghai First Central Hospital, he was so exhausted he couldn't even speak. He forced himself to keep moving, walking toward the ward Dr. Thorne had told him about. His hand gripped the doorknob, pushing the door open and looking inside. He saw Serafina curled up at the foot of the bed, staring blankly at him. "I am late," he managed to force the words out. Seeing him, Serafina forced a strained, painful smile. "My mom is gone," she said. "She's never coming back." Before she could finish, he lunged forward and wrapped her tightly in his arms. "I am sorry," he whispered. "I am so sorry." Deep grief completely filled the small room. Along the way, he had told himself a million times to be strong. If he was not, what would Serafina do? Yet he found himself sobbing silently, unable to speak. Serafina's eyes were bloodshot as she stared at the side of his face. "Did you sneak out of the hospital?" she asked. "Caspian, you must take care of yourself. You are sick, go sleep." Her blackening level hit 100% when the doctor came out of the operating room. He had a smile on his face, offering congratulations, but not long after he left, her mother was issued a critical condition notice. By the time they tried to resuscitate her, it was already too late. He was truly exhausted, so exhausted that he completely missed the system's explosive, frantic warning sirens. When he finally woke up, the message logs in his head were practically overflowing. During the time he was asleep, Serafina had personally gone to find Arthur. She wanted Arthur to see her mother one last time. After all, he was the man her mother had loved, the very man she hadn't wanted to disturb, even on her deathbed. Over the years, Arthur had been completely manipulated by the cunning Vivian, so occasionally he would think back to that mother and daughter. He definitely felt guilt, but he didn't dare seek them out. Coincidentally, Vivian wasn't around, so he followed Serafina. She whispers, "My mother was still thinking about you right until she died. She didn't want you to know about this. Now that you've seen her for the last time," she says, "I'm heading back to Jiangcheng. This is also the last time we'll ever meet as father and daughter." She tells him, "Hurry up and leave." "I didn't tell anyone else." Tired, she leaves, while Arthur can only mutter, "Serafina, I'm sorry." As soon as Arthur stepped out, he saw the young man waiting at the entrance of the morgue. He asks if that man was her father, and she replies, "No, my father died long ago." He stood by her side, watching her handle her mother's funeral entirely on her own. She didn't return to Jiangcheng like she told Arthur she would. Instead, using the money his father gave her, she bought a plot in a public cemetery. On the day of the burial, the rain was light, falling in thin, continuous threads. It felt like the world's final shred of pity for them. He watched her grab a handful of dirt from the grave and place it into a small bag. She tucked it into her pocket. She would return soon, and judging by her current state, she was probably going to follow the original plotline. In that original story, Serafina stayed in Shanghai for a month. During this month, she would find a way to get close to Vivian's daughter, planting the seeds of karma. A year later, the harvest begins. She asks, "Are we going back to Jiangcheng?" Serafina's hand felt chillingly cold. She wanted to reach out and hold his hand, but her hands were covered in dirt. She was afraid of getting him dirty, so she obediently lowered her hand and remained silent. The two of them walked through the cemetery. Aside from them, there was no one else around. This was easily the most desolate, tragic funeral he had ever witnessed. Without exception, he knew the original plotline had changed again. Unable to grasp the full picture, he could only wait and watch. He says, "Serafina, you must believe me. There will be someone in this world who will risk absolutely everything for you." That statement sounded so incredibly ethereal, and it actually sent a spike of fear through Serafina. She didn't even understand this sudden fear, whispering, "You're Sick, he tells her I'm perfectly fine. Didn't you say you'd accompany me to a ripe old age, that you'd give me a good ending? Serafina's words carried such profound grievance. Seeing her like this, his own body trembled, leaving aside the fact that he couldn't stay with Serafina for a lifetime in this world. Looking at how things were going now, it seemed they wouldn't even get that good. Ending, he remained silent for a long time. Serafina watched the rainwater slip through her fingers, leaving only faint tear-like streaks. She couldn't hold on to the water. She couldn't hold on to anyone. You promised me you have to keep your word. You're all I have left. After returning from Shanghai, he spent his days tossing and turning in his hospital bed, desperately trying to devise a counter-strategy. He had succeeded in making her fall in love with him, but the blackening process hadn't diminished in the slightest. He only had 6 months left. He wouldn't even live long enough to see Serafina meticulously set up her grand revenge scheme. He furrowed his brows. He absolutely could not allow Serafina to plummet into the abyss. Once she fell, there would be no turning back. The system seemed to sense his thoughts and immediately tried to stop him, warning him to think twice. This was no game. If Serafina was destined to do these terrible things, why couldn't he do them for her? If he became the ultimate big bad, she would not have to be the villain anymore. Was that not a form of salvation too? A bold, terrifying plan formed his mind. He would bear her sins for her. He had told them both to leave here forever. If he ever caught them setting foot in Shanghai again, they would pay the price. That voice echoed in Serafina's ears like a demonic chant, impossible to shake off. Serafina jolted awake. All these years she had never proactively provoked anyone. She had been living a humble, lowly existence, just trying to survive. She never intended to be an obstacle in anyone's path. Talk about tragic. Some people simply found her existence an eyesore. They relentlessly pushed her toward a dead end. The doctor showed her the scans. Someone had pulled the plug on her mother's life support. The wound was infected by an unknown foreign object. Everyone present avoided her gaze. The security cameras had coincidentally malfunctioned. They refused to tell the truth. They did not dare tell the truth. A profound sense of powerlessness took root in her heart, like an invisible pair of hands choking her throat. Vivan, the stupidest thing you ever did in your life was not killing me too. I am coming for you. He lay in bed, strategizing. In the original story, Serafina had manipulated Su Kaiyan, the official heiress of the Su family. She lured her step by step into the abyss, utterly ruining her reputation. She even hired someone to seduce Arthur, under the double blow of her daughter being sent to prison and her husband's infidelity. Vivan suffered a complete mental breakdown, but what broke her completely was her husband committing suicide by drinking poison. Leaving behind a will, Serafina would inherit all his shares. Arthur actually wrote that will himself. After discovering everything Vivan had done to Serafina and her mother, he secretly drafted the documents. Perhaps it was just a desperate attempt to soothe his own guilty conscience. Given the current circumstances, he had to find a way. He could not let Serafina be the one to strike, but he also could not just blatantly force the plot forward himself. He pondered for an entire night and came up with absolutely nothing, until the next morning when his dad arrived, knowing he had dragged his sick body to run often find Serafina. He was so furious his teeth ached. He held such high hopes for this son, only for him to be lured away by the slightest taste of sweetness. His dad walked in holding a thermos of chicken soup. For the first time he smiled at him. His dad instantly knew nothing good was about to happen. Dad, do you want to expand your business into Shanghai? His dad remained silent for a long time before finally saying, adult matters, kids should not interfere. Serafina's mother is dead. He said this with absolute detachment, not a single trace of emotion on his face. His rationality was so chilling it made even his dad feel like he was looking at a stranger. She was murdered by Arthur's wife, Vivan. Guess what she wants to do the most right now? She needs a knife. If Caspian can help her grab that knife right now, she will rip a layer of skin right off the Su family for him. If this blade is pointed directly at the Su family's only daughter, Su Chan, take a wild guess what happens next. Caspian's dad stared at him blankly. Was this still his useless playboy son? Did Serafina tell him this, asking how she could possibly tell him these things? If she taught him to say this, then she herself is a living weapon. How does Caspian know her blade won't be pointed at him next? Someone like her is far too dangerous. He wants to protect him, promising he won't let him get hurt. Caspian cannot guarantee that. He doesn't have much time left. He has already worked so hard up to this point. He cannot return as a failure. His dad genuinely thought this was an incredible business opportunity. It seemed he needed to have a little chat with Serafina himself. Caspian was forced to stay in the hospital for over half a month. Serafina seemed incredibly busy. She rarely visited, but every time he did see her, he could feel the drastic changes in her aura. It was as if she had suddenly grown up the moment her mother passed away. Before, she would occasionally tease him or make sarcastic remarks. Now, every visit was just a few polite, empty pleasantries. If her affection level wasn't steadily rising every single day, Caspian would seriously suspect she had someone else on the side. He's being discharged tomorrow. He asks what time she's free to go back to school. Together, apologizing, Serafina curls her fingers into a loose fist, smiling at him, saying she must go to Shanghai tomorrow. Caspian asks what she's going. Therefore, frowning, he has no idea what his dad has arranged. Could it be that he was making her do those ruthless, underhanded things all by herself again? Arthur ran into some trouble over there and asked her to go back, telling Caspian not to worry. She can handle things without him. Caspian purses his lips, showing no reaction. She has to walk her chosen path, no matter how unpredictable the future was. Serafina took his silence as silent agreement. The moment she left, he called his dad, demanding to know what he said. He has to say she is a prime piece of material, steady, ruthless. She doesn't pull any punches, even against her own flesh and blood. His praise didn't make Caspian feel proud at all. It just sent a chill down his spine. Is she still going to walk her original path? His dad handed her the knife as promised, but what did he ask her to do? Just digging up some dirt, his father replies. Don't worry, after all, she's going to be his daughter-in-law in the future. If she doesn't care about keeping her hands clean, he cares about his family's reputation. Since Caspian is getting discharged today, he should rest at home. But he is going back to school. Caspian must reach Shanghai one step ahead of her. He has to do what Serafina wanted before she can herself. At the same time, he vaguely sensed something was terribly wrong. And get this, he's heading down a path of no return. Right now, not Serafina, it was Caspian. Serafina had tossed and turned all night. No matter what happened, Caspian was the most important thing to her. She had neglected him way too much lately, but that was only because she was terrified that he would worry and agonize over her again. Serafina bought his favorite snacks and picked up a bouquet of flowers as she passed a florist. She pushed open his hospital room door, finding it empty. When Caspian answered Serafina's call, he had already arrived in Shanghai. Watching the bustling traffic and the intoxicating neon-lit streets, he felt a bit dazed. Seeing 42 missed calls, yeah, she definitely knew where he had run off to. Meanwhile, Sershina was weaving through Zhongchang Station, desperately looking for him. Dark clouds blanketed the sky, looking ready to unleash a downpour at any second. He told her he was in Shanghai, doing what she wanted. He knew she didn't want him to get involved, but he had told her before. He was the only one allowed to bully her. He would collect the Su family's debts for her, but he asked her to promise him one thing, no matter the outcome. She must love this world properly. He called it payment for everything he had done for her. She asked why she should listen to him, calling him crazy. Did she ever ask him to do this? She was a human being, not some useless pet he was raising, reminding him this was her own family's business. What was he to her? What right did he have to interfere like some superhero trying to control everything? Her eyes grew red, her lips trembling violently. The call ended. Serafina boarded her train, leaning against the glass window, her mind flooded with every memory they shared since they met. He was completely different from head to toe. Unbelievable, miraculous things had happened to her. Hearing Serafina's aggressive, pressing questions, Caspian actually felt a bit panicked. Did he really make a massive mistake? He stood at the train station holding takeout, waiting for her. Hours passed with absolutely no sign of her, yet he stood there hour after hour, lost in his thoughts. When she arrived, he told her he was waiting. He asked if she was tired, offering her food, but she told him to shut up. Serafina grabbed him and dragged him out of the station. Her face practically screamed how absolutely furious she was. She demanded to know if he realized what would happen if he ran off to Shanghai alone and things went wrong. Serafina poked him hard in the forehead, saying she didn't know what was inside his brain. Grinning, Caspian grabbed her hand and whispered it was only her His mind was completely full of her. She sighed, asking if he was still joking around. Then Serafina noticed he was carrying 2 portions of food. Her harsh expression softened as she realized he hadn't eaten yet. He admitted he hadn't, asking if she wanted some. She scolded him for starving. She warned him never to do this again. Agreeing, he walked with Serafina through the night streets of Shanghai under a warm, heavy wind. Serafina walked behind him, gently hooking her finger around his pinky, making sure he wouldn't get lost. Caspian turned, their eyes meeting as the young girl's gaze was still misty with unshed tears. She looked a bit lost, asking what he thought she had come to Shanghai to do. Serafina was genuinely curious. He thought about it seriously before admitting he was afraid she was going to seek revenge. When she asked why she shouldn't hate them, he argued that the law offers gentler ways to handle things. She asked like what? But he hadn't decided yet. Serafina's lips curled into a faint smile. Law-abiding society. She then revealed his father asked her to visit the Su family to retrieve something. She reached out to wipe a smudge of ice cream near his mouth. Caspian stared at her in pure shock, but she just found his reaction amusing. She slowly brought that finger to her lips and licked it, remarking how sweet it was. But Caspian wasn't blushing from shyness. He was actually completely terrified. Was infiltrating the powerful Su family estate really going to be that simple? In the past, Serafina had literally worn her knees to the bone kneeling outside their gates. That woman Vivan was notoriously overbearing, always finding ways to torment her. Vivan's cruel actions likely came from a place of deep personal insecurity. She was terrified her husband Arthur would rekindle his romance with Serafina's mother. But right now, Serafina's suggestive little tease was a massive distraction. Caspian's face slowly began to burn a deep shade of red. He muttered under his breath that she was an absolute menace, wondering if she heard. He told her she was going back to Jiangchong tomorrow, but she instantly refused. She was incredibly stubborn, flat out refusing to return to the Su family home. She teased that getting close to her wouldn't be easy before staring deeply at him. She softly asked why he was helping her, her eyes swirling with mixed emotions. She whispered that she felt like Caspian was hiding a lot of secrets. Her words sent his heart into a wild panic. This conversation was getting dangerous. Recognizing the probe, he played it off and promised not to cause any trouble in Shanghai. Then she asked why he would literally die if he ever decided to leave her. Caspian claimed it wasn't that extreme, just wanting to protect her since he wasn't around. Caspian caught himself, wondering why he had even brought up that guy out of nowhere. He was still at school in Jiangchong, so he couldn't possibly show up in Shanghai. But Serafina's mind immediately raced, wondering what if he actually did show up. Caspian's chest tightened. He gave in, telling her they could stay together if she wanted. He quickly booked a hotel room as close to the Su family estate as possible. Serafina saw right through him but kept her cool. Before leaving, she leaned in close and told him to stay put and wait for her. He agreed, determined to watch and see exactly what she was plotting to do next. Normally, using the system's spy function would cost him a bunch of points. But after haggling with his system AI, he got it unlocked as free compensation. The moment she stepped out, her movements were cast directly into his mind. He could see everything she did in real time, playing out right before his eyes. Suddenly, Serafina looked up toward his hotel room, and their eyes seemingly met. His heart leaped, even though he knew she couldn't actually detect his high-tech spy skill. Making eye contact like that still sent a sudden wave of panic through his chest. Meanwhile, she hopped in a cab toward the estate, staring silently out at the skyscrapers. Her mood was exceptionally heavy as she watched the city blur past. She kept obsessing over one major question: what exactly was Caspian's ultimate goal? He always appeared at the perfect moment, but his actions followed no logical pattern. At first, she figured he was just playing a game and would eventually dump her. Yet he hadn't. Instead, he kept going to almost obsessive lengths just for her sake. She pinched her nose, letting out a heavy, tired sigh. Even after spending so much time together, she still couldn't understand him at all. He remained an absolute, frustrating mystery to her. Finally, Serafina arrived at the gates of the luxurious Su family villa, completely alone. Compared to previous years, the mansion now carries an air of faded glory. She knocks on the massive front doors, completely altering the original storyline. In the book, Serafina had manipulated Such Chan first, and only entered the house when he brought her to a family banquet. In that version, Vivian's face would have twisted into a kaleidoscope of colors. But this time, she changes the script, marching straight to the door. During that agonizingly long 1-minute wait, Serafina appears completely calm on the surface, but her palms are slick with sweat. Vivian opens the door. Seeing Serafina, Vivian hesitates, asking her who she is looking for. Serafina looks Vivian dead in the eye. Long time no see, Auntie Vivian. Driven out of Shanghai all those years ago, has she forgotten? Is she regretting it now? Her response is sharp and decisive. She maintains a polite, gentle smile, asking Auntie Vivian if she has ever heard the saying, every single action has a price to pay. By the time her boyfriend practically crawls his way into the hospital, Serafina is still in the emergency room, the hallway completely empty. He specifically checks Arthur's hospital room, finding him well protected by Serafina, having only suffered minor superficial injuries. When the doctor asks if the patient's relatives are around, he looks at the empty corridor, completely bewildered by the silence. He quickly wipes his tears, standing up to introduce himself as her boyfriend. He asks how she is. The doctor says the surgery was successful. The doctor hands him the medical bill, asking him to sign the medical papers right away. He signs his name with practiced ease and waits outside the operating room. The surgery light finally turns off, and Serafina is wheeled out, eyes open. He hurries over, wanting to grab her hand, but hesitates seeing her covered in bandages. Terrified of hurting her, he softly asks how she is feeling. Serafina whispers she is fine, just dizzy, as the doctor warns she needs rest. He promises to protect her and never let anyone hurt her again. Her life is far more precious than his own. Serafina suddenly reaches out, weakly grabbing his clothes and begging him not to leave. He reassures her, but Serafina has rarely ever seen him walk away. Whenever they walked together, he would intentionally stay 2 paces behind her. Serafina was always the one leading, but as the elevator doors slowly close, his retreating figure disappears into the gap. She cannot catch him. That overwhelming sense of loss makes her dizziness spiral, completely out of control. Ultimately, she falls into a deep sleep. He leans against the wall. He thinks hard. Was it Vivian? No, it could not be her. She might be notoriously domineering, but she remains a deeply vulnerable woman. Acting tough was just a shield. Carrying everything alone was exhausting her. Who could it be? He purses his lips, thinking hard about the mastermind. Regardless of whether Vivian actually ordered the hit, she must take the fall. He suddenly craves candy, despite not usually having much of a sweet tooth. He buys some, stuffing his pockets full before waiting for Arthur's room. To clear out, he slips inside, and Arthur snaps out of his daze. Arthur stared at the unfamiliar boy, whose youthful face tried hard to wear a cold, mature expression. When Arthur questioned him, the boy warned his wife was trying to kill him. Arthur frowned deeply. He was not entirely surprised by this dark possibility. Ever since Serafina arrived, his relationship with Vivan had plummeted to a freezing point. The only reason he had not formally reached out to Serafina was because he feared Vivan might do something drastic. Arthur told the boy he could not just throw wild accusations around, demanding once more to know his identity. The boy offered to fetch the evidence, warning that their meeting must remain a secret. Vivan had provoked someone she absolutely should have avoided, the kid added. Even if Arthur refused to act, the young man promised he would not let her go. Left alone, Arthur remained deep in thought, wondering who she had provoked. Who on earth was that boy? Meanwhile, the young host wandered aimlessly around the hospital. His system asked in confusion what he was thinking, as the plot had completely derailed. He simply instructed it to check Serafina's current blackening level. The villain's blackening level was 70. The boy asked if it knew why humans felt hatred. His artificial intelligence assistant did not understand human logic, only asking why. It is because they face prejudice, and because they are completely powerless, and because they are unwilling to accept their fate, even though he did not fully understand how the system calculated blackening. He did not believe that what Serafina felt right now was evil. These were just normal, justified emotions any human would experience under such brutal, unfair circumstances. Expecting her to live a quiet, peaceful life as a good person now. Forget about her, even he would go completely insane in her shoes. Looking incredibly lost, he murmured that Serafina's notoriously evil fate in the novel was something he did not dare to gamble with. He feared she would walk down that exact same dark path. If others owed her, he would collect the debt. If she was powerless, he would hand her the knife. If she resisted her fate He would stand by her side. Doing all this, he refused to believe she could still turn against him. The system warned that while she might not turn evil, he had. The system chimed in, knowing its host operated entirely outside of normal logic. Although he had promised to search for evidence, he did not actually do so. Once the coast was clear, he slipped quietly back into Serafina's hospital room. He wanted to tend to her while discussing their next move. He asked her directly if the attack was truly orchestrated by Vivan. He frowned, wondering if Vivan was that ruthless. Serafina only smiled weakly. Vivan just wanted to scare them, but Serafina had negotiated with the attackers herself. She ordered them to hit harder to make the whole thing look authentic. He gasped in horror, asking if she realized she had almost died. No matter the circumstances, risking her own life like this was unacceptable. But she insisted it was the easiest way to secure Arthur's absolute trust. Since Vivan actually ordered it, they could pin the entire blame on her. Serafina stared deep into his eyes. He gently reached out and ruffled her hair. Over the next few days, Arthur indeed began a quiet investigation into Vivan. That mysterious boy never showed up again, leaving Arthur with endless questions. Lying in his hospital bed, Arthur felt a chilling cold seep into his bones as he thought about Vivian. Arthur refused to touch a single drop of her homemade soup, terrified the woman was poisoning him. When Vivian heard about his accident, she actually panicked, even though the car had cut brake lines and the hired driver kept quiet. She never expected those thugs to act so recklessly. You should go home, Arthur sighed heavily, having tolerated Vivian for far too long. He was completely exhausted. Whenever he looked at Vivian, he felt a sword dangling over his head, ready to decapitate him at any moment. After Vivian left, Arthur sprang into action, since she was willing to be this ruthless. She couldn't blame him for discarding all their sentimental ties. She honestly didn't expect the plot to progress this rapidly. When she saw the Zoo Corporation's news plastered all over the front pages, she was completely dumbfounded, telling Serafina to look. Stock prices were plummeting, their marriage completely shattered, with scandalous, pixelated photos everywhere. Vivian looking completely disheveled and utterly ridiculous. The comments underneath were even worse. Clicking her tongue with worry, she asked, "You didn't do this, right?" They had been glued together 24/7 lately, so she had no time for this. It had to be Arthur, preparing for a complete public fallout. After being married so long, how could he release such scandalous news about his own wife? Sign this divorce agreement for the company's sake. Agreement, Arthur demanded. Vivian screamed, calling him an ungrateful bastard, wishing she let that car kill him. Arthur countered, "So you admit it, I've tolerated you too long. What did her mother ever do wrong? You wanted to murder her. Think about it yourself." Vivian screamed. She was with him for years, asking when he ever truly cared. Didn't he keep a picture of his old lover hidden under the bed? Do you have any shame? She declared that he killed her with his own infidelity, asking if this was how he showed his promised love. This is how he loved her. Arthur called her crazy and demanded she sign. He had done all he could. The Sue family drama finally reached its peak. Miraculously, none of it was Serafina's doing, yet the girl didn't feel happy at all. From this page onward, the plot officially entered its countdown. A faint melancholy bloomed in her chest, unable to tell if it was guilt or reluctance to leave. As love begins, the countdown to heartbreak starts over. The next few days, she promised to go and get what her father wanted. Her tone was somewhat indifferent, but Serafina insisted she didn't need to, knowing what her father's goal was. He wanted to bankrupt Arthur's company to use that as a foothold in Shanghai. She asked Serafina if she wanted power and money, the Sue family being a total mess. If they pushed harder, she had a plan, but her words died in her throat because Serafina was staring at her. Her eyes contained an unreadable emotion. Serafina quietly stated she never wanted those things, her voice completely flat, adding she never considered herself part of the Sue family. She didn't know if she was imagining it, but Serafina's tone starting to feel oppressive. Did you know from the start that she was connected to the Sues, treating her well just because she wanted the Sue Corporation? She quickly turned her head away, insisting she didn't mean it like that. Thought if Serafina wanted it, she would fight for it, fearing he made another mistake. He was too obsessed with the plot, constantly trying to push her down that predestined path. Did she really just want power back then? But he had no choice. He lowered his head, remaining silent. Once he left, Serafina would be completely alone again. having no one to rely on. Thinking about that made him incredibly anxious. Have you ever heard the saying? Except for yourself, no one can accompany you to the very end, Serafina froze, suddenly flaring up in anger. What are you implying? Caspian stammered, I mean. Life is full of unexpected accidents. Forget it if you do not want it. You do not want it, she snapped. Caspian, I hate when you hide things. She would not let go of his hand. Instead, she gripped it even. Gripping it tighter, saying, if you have something to say, say it. I will do whatever you want me to do, but please, stop acting like you are about to. Leave me forever. Caspian's wrist hurt from her grip under his silent, unresponsive gaze. Serafina's resentment finally crumbled into vulnerability. Her shaking voice was laced. With a pleading tone, her eyes rimmed with red, she looked incredibly pitiful. As she whispered, I am sorry. I am just so scared. I do not know why I act like this. If you do not like it, I can change. No, Caspian whispered, pulling her into a hug. You do not need to change. I will never say those things. Again, she cried, you wanted me to study medicine, right? I will retake exams this year. And study hard, just wait for me. I still want to live to a ripe old age with you, okay? I am begging you. Serafina looked like a terrified child afraid of losing her favorite toy. Caspian forced himself to agree. He told her, then you have to live well. I like kind and pure people. Her expression shifted slightly. Kind and pure. Serafina had no idea what kind of people those were, but as long as Caspian liked it, she would learn to be exactly that. Serafina's methods were highly effective. Arthur trusted her completely. She easily gained access to his office, and the moment he stepped out, she plugged a USB drive into his computer. All of Vivian's dirty secrets were completely dug up. On trial day, Serafina secretly went to see the woman who looked incredibly haggard. Her involvement in the tragic death of Serafina's mother was not brought to light. This trial focused on another scandal reporters had dug up. Another of Arthur's affairs, a girl 7 months pregnant, had died on the operating table. The methods used were practically identical. Saying let's go, when Caspian heard Vivian was sentenced, he grabbed her hand. Regardless of anything else, she had received her deserved punishment because the law never lets the wicked escape. Serafina remained silent as they walked out of the courthouse. Caspian stretched lazily. In the next second, Serafina hugged him tightly. Thank you. Her blackening level hit 30. He smiled, telling her, you should thank yourself too. Life was so bitter before, but you survived it. Caspian reached out, gently ruffling her messy hair. You worked hard, he said. He also needed to thank her for sparing his life. Thanking her for the chance to complete the mission, he pulled out his phone and called his dad. Dad, it's over. Did you get everything you wanted? Thank you, my son. His dad got exactly what he wanted, he publicly announced. Serafina as Caspian's fiancée, promising marriage the moment they graduated. University graduate, promising them a grand wedding, but that very night the Zoo Corporation plunged into a fatal crisis. Arthur's computer contained way too much illegal data. His dad used it to strike a deal with Arthur's biggest rival, securing a permanent foothold in Shanghai. Serafina soon heard her father was imprisoned for tax evasion and bribery. She remained completely cold. Even when Arthur begged to see her, she was entirely unmoved. Serafina pouted, watching him eat a popsicle, asking if he was eating too many. His body stiffened, since he was about to leave this mission soon. He just wanted to enjoy himself as much as possible. After all, he had no idea what his real world was actually like. Being a rich heir was great. He could shamelessly squander money like a true playboy, eating whatever he wanted. Serafina snatched the popsicle from his hand and took a bite. He offered to buy another, but she refused, saying he shouldn't eat cold things. Since he didn't care about his heart failure, she would manage it for him. The biting cold made Serafina's jaw tremble. Her blackening level was now hovering around 5. Honestly, it made no sense. What other critical plot point could trigger a relapse now? Logically, all her enemies needed to take revenge on had met their deserved ends. She suddenly announced her plan to withdraw from university. He asked why she forgot he wanted her to study medicine. Serafina gently pinched his cheeks, arguing that even with doctors everywhere, she didn't trust them with him. He insisted there was no need, wanting her to study something she actually enjoyed. She replied that his desires were her joy. Serafina's withdrawal application was met with deep regret from her professors, but she wouldn't change her mind. He rented a nearby apartment. Every day after classes, he came home to find Serafina either doing college entrance exam papers, or reading medical textbooks. Days passed by. Slowly, he still hadn't seen her blackening level drop to zero. What was her final lingering attachment? He could only lie in bed, agonizing over the original plotline repeatedly. It was a complete stalemate, he felt. Incredibly helpless, seeing that half of his 6-month time limit had already passed. When she asked about lunch, he called her domestic, hugging her around the waist. He told her to make whatever she liked, loving everything she cooked. Serafina let out a soft chuckle, promising to wait for him whenever he was with her. One phrase always popped into his mind: old married couple. He waved at her and stepped into the elevator. The thought of Serafina becoming his wife in the future filled him with a strange, wondrous, yet terrifying emotion. After class, he went straight to the supermarket. It looked like it was about to rain. Strolling through the aisles, he suddenly heard an argument nearby. He took a casual glance, but his feet froze to the floor. That man, the face was familiar. It was the thug who assaulted Serafina's mother years ago. Back then, the scum thought he owned the world. Absolute arrogance. But our hero didn't recall Serafina ever taking her revenge, not once. Could her remaining 5% blackening level be tied to this trash? The bastard was arguing with a cashier. Our guy browsed close by. Listening to their vulgar, brainless conversation, he grabbed some random items. The moment the man turns to leave, he follows him outside, carrying his few groceries. He quietly trails behind him. As the man gets into a car, he immediately orders his driver to tail him. The suspect drives through a maze of streets, finally stopping at a dilapidated, rundown house. Soon after he goes inside, the agonizing wails of a woman echo out, accompanied by the harsh crashing of breaking objects. He doesn't hesitate, even for a second, dialing the police to report a domestic fight where a man is beating a woman to death at 74 Qingjiang Road. The victim sounds like she is dying. Having done his part, he has the driver move the car to a hidden corner, waiting patiently until the police finally arrive. Soon after, the man is dragged out in handcuffs. He quickly snaps a photo to show Serafina later. The moment her blackening level hits zero, he can finally leave this world. Meanwhile, Serafina has already checked his class schedule twice. He is 2 hours later than usual, making her frown. Just as she is about to call him, she hears a noise at the door. The food is cold, but he does not care. He heads to the kitchen, shoves some food into his mouth, and rushes back out. He tells her he saw something incredibly interesting on the way home. Serafina just sighs, asking why he did not let her know, because she worried something had happened to him. He brushes it off, though her intense reaction seems rather strange. He glances at her, pulling out his phone to show how he saw a man beating his wife. So he called the cops. He jokes about how hilarious the arrest looks. Serafina takes the phone. Her pupils contract violently. Suddenly, the blackening level spikes to 90. Talk about an absolute disaster. He had cleared every plot point, even making Serafina fall for him, yet her blackening level remained stubbornly stuck at 5, refusing to reach 0. But today, while grocery shopping, he ran into the very thug who assaulted her mother years ago. He followed him to the slums, heard a domestic dispute, and immediately called the police, capturing a photo of the arrest. But the moment Serafina sees the image, her meter skyrockets to 90, and she stares at him with an eerie, dead calm expression. A chilling warning pops into his head that the ocean is always most terrifyingly calm right before a hurricane. He swallows hard, his voice shaking as he stutters to ask if she knows the man. He adds that she would have to visit the police station, as he is clearly a criminal who will not be getting out anytime soon. She coldly asks where he saw him and why he went there. He claims he was just wandering out of boredom. She demands he stop doing these things. Serafina stares deeply at him for a long time before finally sighing heavily. The blackening level drops with her sigh, resting back at that cursed 5%. Borderline. He has never hated the number 5 so much. Yet one thing is absolutely certain: Serafina's rage has nothing to do with that old grudge. She tells him to wash up and eat, warning him that next time he must inform her first, no matter what happens. After saying this, Serafina frowns, asking if her behavior is bad. He quickly denies it. She remains silent, sitting right across the dinner table. Lost in her own thoughts, he notices she keeps zoning out more, and lately Serafina had been highly volatile, keeping Caspian on his toes. The system notifications tracking her affection level popped up 3 times a day minimum. Thankfully, her stats never fell below 50 as Caspian rambled about school stuff. But Serafina suddenly looked up, cutting him off to ask if the food was good. Caspian said it was delicious, but she frowned, telling him to shut his mouth. The atmosphere plummeted to freezing as Caspian quietly tried to read her. When he asked if she was annoyed, she admitted she hated him praising others. Not even slightly, it was clear she struggled with severe separation anxiety. She massaged her forehead, sighed that she was full, and stood up. After ordering him to walk to school with her later, she walked away. Caspian watched helplessly, having absolutely no clue what he had done wrong. She operated on a completely different wavelengths. Later, she walked him to class and finally met the classmate he always mentioned. This other girl was incredibly pretty, carrying a soft, delicate vibe. She smiled brightly at Caspian, triggering a cold sneer from Serafina. Previously, Caspian had highly praised this girl's great style. He also mentioned she was aloof to others, but unusually friendly to him. Somehow, Caspian remained completely blind to his own excessive attention toward her. Talk about playing with fire, Caspian had no idea he was crossing a line. Serafina glared at the classmate before planting a bold kiss on his cheek. She told him to study hard, cementing her status as his gorgeous girlfriend. Seeing Serafina in person, everyone agreed she lived up to the rumors. Caspian headed inside while the classmate approached him, holding some green tea. She handed it over, mentioning an upcoming mixer event they should attend. Caspian politely refused, saying he did not really feel like drinking anything. She teased him, warning that his girlfriend had just glared at her fiercely. Asking if Serafina had a bad temper, Caspian quickly shook his head. She insisted girls knew girls best, asking if they were newly dating. Hearing her ramble, Caspian nodded and handed the warm green tea right back. He proudly stated that his girlfriend was the only one buying his drinks. Meanwhile, Serafina stood by a window nearby, lost in deep contemplation. There were so many mysteries about Caspian she just could not unravel. She knew he would never harm her, as his sincerity felt completely raw. He practically offered her his heart, yet his ultimate motives remained hidden. What did he actually want from her? She still could not figure it out. But maybe, she thought, lying to herself was better than knowing the truth. False hope was still hope, and she wished he would keep up the act forever. Honestly, trying to read her mind was an absolute nightmare for him. Every single glance made him desperately want to ask what lingering regrets she held. Yet she remained his constant guardian, protecting him with fierce devotion. She practically wanted to shrink him down and keep him safe forever. If this was not a system mission, Caspian would happily stay with her. Spending a peaceful, ordinary life by her side sounded perfect to him. Serafina suddenly broke his train of thought, mentioning the upcoming new year. She whispered softly that they had already known each other for almost a year. When she said that, his first instinct was to nod, but then he froze. He froze, turned, stared in shock. She was remembering it wrong. They had known each other for 2 years, so why this sudden request? Just the two of them. She held his intense, searching gaze as she spoke. Spotted panic set in, he nodded quickly. Okay, originally his dad wanted them home for New Year's, but when he explained he was spending it with Serafina, his father fell completely silent. Finally, he relented. You kids have your own lives, he sighed, offering help. He thanked him. His dad paused. You're my son, why thank me? Still, he felt entirely detached. Winter break arrived, but he felt entirely disconnected from his school. Someone asked if he was dropping out, since he had cleared his dorm room. He averted his gaze. Honestly, that was exactly what he planned. He wanted to spend this entire month completely glued to Serafina. His master goal, simple, grind her blackening levels straight to 0. Didn't he move out already? He was just clearing out the rest of his gear. Serafina pressed her lips together, staying dead silent as time marched on. The festive holiday atmosphere grew thicker. Serafina took it very seriously. She scrubbed their entire apartment until it was absolutely spotless. Are you unhappy? No, she softly replied. He ran to her side. He bent down to read her expression, asking if he had upset her. No, Serafina said, setting down the broom with a pale, forced smile. She was just missing her mother. She wasn't used to celebrating alone. Hearing this, his entire body stiffened. He desperately forced his panic deep down. He hid his panic. I'm sorry, he whispered quickly. She sighed that fate dictates life and death, but at least she had him. He promised to stay by her side for a very long time, if she wanted. Really, she looked cold. he insisted he would never lie. You had better not. He knew she had been acting incredibly strange. Her words, her behavior, everything felt off. Honestly, this is getting seriously creepy. When New Year's Eve finally arrived, she brought out something that completely stunned him. Memories of his last drunken disaster were still fresh. Serafina slowly. A red wine bottle. No, this was absolutely not happening. She poured half a glass, teasing that it was just the two of them. She wasn't afraid of getting drunk, calling him cute when tipsy. She pushed the sweet drink over, but he flatly refused to take it. So Serafina poured her own glass and clinked it against the bottle. She downed it one gulp. His heart began to race in panic. She immediately grabbed the bottle to pour another. This was too fast. He hastily covered the rim of her glass, begging her to stop drinking. He offered to drink with her instead, anything to stop her self-destruction. She asked if he was afraid of slipping up and confessing secrets. His body froze completely. He nervously laughed it off, just drama. He insisted he just hated losing face in front of the person he liked. She called him a liar. He gritted his teeth, searching for a way out. After a tense pause, he lied, claiming his health was too fragile. She suddenly remembers this fact and quickly moves the alcohol away. She apologizes, but Caspian knows she suspects something. He looks back at everything he did, tracing loophole after loophole. Cracks are everywhere. He cannot wait. He must make the first move. Everything rides on the single play. He spends half the night taking care of a very drunk Serafina. Her heavy stare makes him nervous as he waves a hand to dismiss it. Serafina irritably swats his hand away, sitting there in a drunken daze. After a long silence, she beckons him closer, wanting to ask a few questions. She demands absolute honesty. Caspian hesitates for a second, then nods. Serafina grabs his wrist, her eyes bloodshot and incredibly serious. She looks up, completely hollow. She softly asks if he really likes her, looking for any hesitation. But that tiny delay is a massive red flag to her. She asks if he has an ulterior motive, but he keeps a straight face. He acts his part perfectly before Serafina suddenly pulls him into an embrace. She whispers for him not to lie to her. The heavy smell of alcohol and her burning breath wash over his ear, making his face flush as hot as a roaring fire. Anyone else can deceive her, but not him. Caspian feels a sudden chill. Was that a faint hint of murderous intent in her voice? Then she softens, telling him he is the only one she trusts. She fumbles in her pockets, making Caspian want to jump back in fear. He is terrified she's about to pull a weapon and end him right there. Her hands tremble, and Caspian's heart pounds violently in his chest. He shuts his eyes tight as she wishes him a happy new year. She hands him a piece of candy to help him calm down. Looking down, she asks if she can kiss him, her face drawing closer to his. His heart hammers against his ribs as he stares back with wide eyes. Caspian is utterly lost, just as their lips are about to meet. She suddenly stops. Staring quietly, she tells him it is time for bed. Caspian's throat feels bone dry as he tries to process what just happened. He mumbles that they should wait because she has been drinking. Without another word, she heads to the bathroom, leaving him completely bewildered. Outside, the loud crackle of holiday fireworks begins to echo. Brilliant lights paint the night sky in a dazzling display. Caspian stares blankly at the window, a lonely reflection in his eyes. But behind the closed bathroom door, Serafina is in absolute agony. She stares into the mirror, turns on the faucet, and breaks down crying. It is a quiet, painful sob that seems to go on forever. When she finally emerges, Caspian is already passed out on the sofa. Sleeping like the dead, his phone screen still glows in the dark. It shows an active call as she gently drapes a blanket over him. She sits by his side, watching over him silently for the rest of the night. When he finally wakes, he meets her exhausted, bloodshot eyes. She softly greets him, but a terrifying system warning jolts him wide awake. That notification flashed before him. His heart pounded so hard he thought he was hallucinating. With villain blackening at 0 and affection at 80, the system congratulated him. Clearance requirements achieved. His reward was 1,000 points. The system asked if he wanted to exit now, making his body tremble as he frowned. Serafina looked worried, asking if he was sick, but he quietly answered no. He stared at her in utter disbelief. Serafina was truly such an unpredictable person. When she asked if he had a nightmare, he reached out and hugged her tightly, burying his face in her shoulder in a daze. Did he want To leave, in his mind, he flipped to the very last item in the system shop. He gently smoothed her hair, whispering her name as he pressed his forehead against hers, her eyes curved into bright, radiant crescents. "Do you want to kiss me?" she asked. He said no, making Serafina frown as she blinked, tilted her head, and repeated her question. "Do you really not want to kiss me?" Since then, he was constantly building mental walls, reminding himself these were just people in a parallel world who had nothing to do with him. "It is still early," he told her, promising to get breakfast. The usual she requested, 3 buns, sweet rice porridge, and 2 extra eggs. As Serafina stepped out the door, a wave of panic washed over her. She could not help but look back at him on the sofa, and he was looking right back. She said she was leaving, and he warned her to be careful. The moment the door clicked shut, he reached out and grabbed a soda numbly. Pulling the tab, someone must have shaken it, because the liquid violently fizzed and exploded, spilling all over his hands and dripping steadily onto the floor. A sweet and sour aroma instantly filled the air, but Serafina honestly was not even that great. Without realizing it, 2 lines of clear tears slid down his face. If he left a clone behind to care for Serafina and take care of her, would she be okay? If he really could not bear to leave, he did not care. Triggered by the assistant's provocation, he loudly submitted his request to exit. The world around him began to dissolve, his consciousness instantly plunging into absolute darkness. A horrific, soul-tearing agony erupted from his core. The system told him to bear with it. He got what he paid for, extracting from the deepest parts of his soul to replicate a perfect clone. He cursed, asking why it was not mentioned earlier. He looked at his duplicate. "From today onward, your name is Caspian. You are kind, sunny, and emotional. You deeply love a girl named Serafina. You would sacrifice everything for her, even your life. I leave the rest to you. Love her well for me," he whispered. The system congratulated the host. Mission accomplished. Serafina did not know why, but on this ordinary day, filled with the bustling noise of normal life, she just felt incredibly cold. Standing in the breakfast line, her heart suddenly seized with a dull, agonizing ache. The pain was suffocating, rapidly spreading straight to her limbs and bones, running faster than she ever had in her life. Serafina sprinted back home. The soda can slipped from his fingers, the orange liquid bubbling and spilling across the floor. Serafina felt like she was suffocating as she slowly approached him, looking completely and utterly exhausted. With trembling hands, she reached out to check his breathing, faint but undeniably real. Meanwhile, Caspian sat before a massive screen inside the system space, watching Serafina with a solemn look as she wept over his lies. She cried out to know her mistake as the system declared villain blackening level 1. On the screen, Caspian's physical body remained in a deep sleep. Serafina raised a sharp knife, warning that if he did not wake up within 5 minutes, she would grant his wish. 5 minutes was plenty. Time flew by in a flash. Serafina was already covered in tears. Her right hand, gripping the knife, trembled violently. She raised it high, preparing to strike. Was Caspian's expiration date really here? Was his life truly ending like this? He remembered inviting his dad to eat sweet dumplings together. He had always considered himself smart, thinking every single move he made was meticulously calculated, but he truly did not understand why this mission had become such a catastrophic failure. From the very first time he met Serafina, he kept acting like a hot-headed idiot, doing so many stupid things. His rationality screamed in his left ear that it was time to stop, but the blood roaring in his right ear shattered the dam completely. It felt like he was stripped of his ability to think critically. Indeed, everyone in this world was incredibly smart. He had not realized that using prophecy to save a life had long ago planted deep seeds of doubt in his father's mind. How could Serafina not have known? She lied to herself, trying time and time again to prove his love, but the more she dug for the truth, the further away he seemed to slip from her. So she constantly lowered her own expectations, even if his love had an ulterior motive. As long as he stayed by her side, even if he lied to her for the rest of her life, she was completely willing. That lingering 5% blackening level was purely her desperate obsession with him. Even the final drop to 0 was a test. From every question she asked, every probe she made, it was destined that she would eventually uncover the truth. For a long time, he had also noticed his own anomalies. Every single thing he did was riddled with logical loopholes. So he hypothesized that his final departure from this world would inevitably leave a flaw that Serafina would catch. That was why he made that final phone call to his dad, and the facts proved it. He won the bet. The telepathic connection between people is truly bizarre. His dad rushed to the apartment and saw him sleeping soundly on the sofa. Serafina had noticed a tiny detail. If he had simply fallen asleep on his own, why was the soda can on the floor currently spilling its contents? Judging by the puddle continuously expanding outward, it had clearly just been dropped. Could he have suffered a heart attack and passed out? With trembling hands, she checked his breathing, faint but undeniably real. She refused to believe it, but all the evidence pointed to that one devastating. Serafina, face streaming with tears, raised her trembling right hand high, ready to plunge the knife into her own chest. Right at that moment, his dad arrived outside the door. He did not call his dad to save him. How could Serafina ever bear to kill him? She was just using this childish, desperate method to threaten him into coming back. His true goal was to stop her from committing suicide. His dad examined him in the living room. Why? Will he ever wake up? Meanwhile, in the quiet bedroom, Serafina continues to sob. She asks if his only goal was to make her good, just to guarantee his own survival. Demanding answers, she slowly points the sharp tip of the knife directly at her own chest. Caspian bolts upright in sheer horror, his eyes locked onto the massive viewing screen. The screen shows nothing. Panic sets in as he wonders why the clone swap is stuck. The system stays totally silent, completely ignoring his frantic demands to speak. He begs the system to send the clone, then a voice asks Caspian his true motive. The voice asks if he even remembers why he wanted to go home. Caspian freezes. His pupils shrink. Instantly, he plunges into a deep, suffocating abyss. He starts questioning everything. Why did he want to go home? That deep longing simply vanishes. The desire completely vanishes. A crushing weight of total powerlessness creeps in. It hits his soul hard, feeling like a heavy sledgehammer striking his skull. He collapses straight onto his knees. After a long, agonizing silence, he finally speaks. Cold sweat drips down his face. He asks if memories are wiped during task execution. He demands to know if the system has been manipulating his thoughts this whole time. He confronts the silent guide, demanding to know what the ultimate goal actually is. Caspian wonders if his so-called real memories are nothing but a lie. He questions his entire past, his family, his friends, and even his beloved Serafina. He suspects that his entire world and his very existence are completely fake. The system confesses that yes, it is a liar, and this mission was a scam. It praises his intelligence, admitting it had to constantly suppress his cognitive functions. Otherwise, he would have suspected the truth. Caspian is merely the system's own creation. He is just a simple string of data that somehow managed to gain conscious thought. Serafina is data, his father is data, and this entire world belongs to the system. It always looked down on him, calling him pathetic, cowardly, and incredibly arrogant. It points out how good Serafina is, literally risking her life for him right now. She wants to force him to return. The system demands he finally open his eyes. It calls him a coward who is afraid to face his own true feelings. The cold voice echoes through the white space. Caspian's mind is left in complete chaos. He is unable to calm down, curling up tightly in the corner of the room. He sobs in a suffocating silence. That harsh speech has completely broken him. His psychological defenses are obliterated. His entire worldview has been utterly shattered. Everything he ever owned or yearned for was a total lie. It is all fake. Talk about a soul-crushing twist. Absolute despair fills the empty room. What is the point of his existence? He is just a plaything for the system. He has lost everything. His entire identity is gone. After a long silence, a voice speaks. The system tells him it is all fake, and there is no real world to return to. It orders him back, having achieved its goal. Caspian realizes the clone was the target. He asks why it did not just extract the clone from the very beginning. It played him like a fool, and now it wants to toss him right back. He wonders what the point is if his love and hatred are just lines of code. Caspian sits curled up in the corner, wanting to rot there for eternity. He wishes to stay far away from that incredibly tragic and pathetic world. The system reminds him that while the world is fake, the love was completely real. Something deep within him is struck, and all those past memories begin to rush back. Memories flash wildly through his mind. In a daze, he sees Serafina's silhouette, her sleek hair and eyes curving into bright crescents. Like the start of a beautiful story, smiling warmly at him, the system was right. He was a coward, tears of bitter disappointment rolling down His face, he tries desperately to hold them back, making his eyes sting. The system was right, even if this world was fake and had no meaning. He had genuinely felt that love. He felt his heart skip its 101st beat during those moments of shy, blushing youth, that profound happiness of a steaming bowl of noodles on a freezing winter day. He felt the relaxed peace of walking in the cool evening breeze. He felt the tiny, beautiful ripples forming in his heart, day by day, moment by moment. Most things in this world have no grand meaning, but love by its nature defies all logic. Humans are born to love, and that love is real. Because of that, his world is real. He has to go back now. Tears fly from his eyes as he sprints toward the massive screen like a madman. He remembers the panic of their first meeting, failing to find any words. How she walked up and held out her hand, gripping his tightly without letting go. He had grown so used to having her close, protecting his fragile heart. Their story was like a romantic movie with a beautiful opening scene, and he wants nothing more than to watch it with her until dawn breaks, spending a perfect evening writing a song just to sing to her, telling her that her sweet love melts like candy. But then, as he crashes through the glass screen, that familiar, agonizing pain strikes his entire body once again. It feels like his soul is being violently ripped apart, but he does not care. He charges forward recklessly as a blinding white light completely consumes his vision. Just as Serafina raises a sharp knife, stealing her resolve to plunge it into her own heart, a hand shoots out and grips her wrist with iron strength. He whispers that he is back, and she collapses into loud, broken wails. All the deep sorrow she had suppressed for so long pours out instantly. He looks down and sees the simple breakfast of warm rice porridge and eggs. She tells him to eat, apologizing that she could only find those simple items. She asks him softly, offering to go heat up the porridge for him right now. Seeing her like this, he cannot hold back anymore, throwing his arms around her. He cries out, telling Serafina that he loves her, regardless of what is real. He does not care if his memories are lies, or if this world is fake. He never belonged here anyway, but none of that matters because he has her. He promises they will stay together forever, no matter what comes next. They have this song to sing together.